Hey, what's going on? I like how loud the music is for me, but I'll turn it down for you guys. How was your week? It's been a bit. I think I have to lean further back to be in the frame here. Chair stream? No, we just do a little bit of a theatric intro where there's like a little bit of a stage, we set the mood. Instead of a countdown screen, it's kind of like waiting for a theater show to start. I don't know. I'm a theater nerd. Am I Tails? What do you mean, am I Tails? What is that supposed to know? Do I look like Tails? Fantastic week, Fast as Sonic. That's good to hear. I'm looking forward to doing a little bit more button pressing with the timer than we did last week. A lot more taking conversation topics. I think I'm finally ready to start recording a bunch of 5-minute discussion videos for my personal channel. It fits in perfectly though, because a lot of people on my personal channel were like, man, the 5 minutes is so limiting. I want to hear you talk even longer. What the? I don't know what that said. The screen is speaking to me. Sonic is trying to contact me himself. So the idea is that these live streams will always be the full version, and when I want to be concise and do the 5-minute discussions, we can do them. It's just a spliced up version of what we're gonna see here. So it's kind of like it's a little bit of a game. So obviously, just so we're not clickbaiting, we're gonna talk about, you know, the elephant in the room, which is the new Tails tube. So we can watch that to start, just so that we have something to kind of, at least some footage to put on screen. But yeah, I can even write down some takes, because I'm sure people are throwing them out right now. So let me see what I got. An essay 1 plot hole? Yo, let me hear it. I won't write it down until I know what it is, but let me hear it. Let me get a... Yeah, this paper's gonna work. Incoming transmission. Portal's this way, dude. And it's the... Anyway, that joke is probably not PG. We're gonna move on. Who is your favorite character in Sonic characters? Well, I can just like, I don't even need the timer for that one or the button or anything, because I'm like such a normie Sonic fan when it comes to that. I just like Sonic. Could you not tell? Let's get something moving around in the background there. You know what? It's been a minute since I've watched. Let's do this. I'm realizing that you really can just play anything back here. Oh, wait, no. I said I was going to watch the Tails tube. What am I doing? I don't need footage. There it is.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone. Okay, everyone's not watching, you egomaniac. So I imagine... Oh, wait, I wonder if one of my screens... I might have to change shirts. This fabric does not breathe enough for the amount of lighting I have in this room. Oh, boy. It's already warm. This is the problem with the seasons changing, right? I get far less depressed, obviously, like everybody else, right? But, so obviously I'm more motivated to make content. But then when I have to turn on all my lights, I start getting cooked. So like I don't know. I'm gonna have to take breaks or something. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. That is Palm Tree Panic. I feel bad about stopping it. I do need to test my scenes though. That is not it. That is me and Dakiii talking. That's us trying to get the live stream working. We were having trouble. Oh, it's just this whole screen. Okay. But wait, the Dakiii screen has to be... Really? That's crazy. It used to show Dakiii, so I guess I just like reversed everything. Let me just what screen was this one? Let's change the display capture to the one that I want. There it is. So I think it's this one. No, this one. Yes. Very good. And then we'll fit to screen. Fit to screen. Good. Sweet. So now we can actually switch between this and this. I don't think I have my did I unplug my stream deck? Oh, darn it, I did. Okay, well, this is a decent setup to watch through it. It's all synchronized. I got it physically in my real reality, so I can point to things, but also I can just full screen it for us. All right, I did say I was gonna write down some hot takes. I didn't really get any, so I'm gonna see if I got that essay 1 plot hole. I didn't. Oh wait, no, I did. Remember when Knuckles? Oh wait, I think I saw this mentioned before we left last week. Okay, remember when Knuckles saw Gamma and followed him to the egg carrier? Knuckles saw Gamma and followed him to the egg carrier because that's how he got on to begin with. Well, after Gamma caught Froggy, Tikal put him in one of those flashbacks and then woke up on the egg carrier. Is that how Knuck saw him? Or how did Knuckles see him? Okay, no, I actually remember thinking this when I was younger. I always thought that, like, it's funny though, and this is totally something I made up in my kid brain, okay? But I thought that, like, whenever they went into that dream state that Tikal was putting them in, they're a little bit possessed. You know what I mean? That's Tikal kind of trying to do what she can to make everything work out, because Tikal has seen this devastation happen and is doing, and it's her will to circumvent it because she sees the cycle happening again. So it kind of fits in with her kind of even giving the visions to begin with, right? And then you also have her going this way in Knuckles' story. It's not a stretch to say that this spirit is going to possess some people, especially Gamma, who is controlled by a animal. It even makes even more sense that a robot would become under control. Like the robot was following the task and the bird was in the dream. That's also possible. Yeah, there's even more explanations because it is a robot. So Tales Tube, I feel like I should play it once. I have watched it on my own, but I think we should play it just to.
Everyone, and welcome to our very first episode of Tales Tube on the Road. Today I'm coming to you live on location from inside the prestigious Spagonia University. So many brilliant scholars have walked these hallowed halls, including today's very special guest. Everyone, please welcome a personal intellectual hero of mine, Professor Victoria!
Excuse me, who are you?
I should be asking.
How confident are we that this character is even, like, it's one of those things where it's similar to Aaron Weber when he was putting numbers on posts. Similar. Very slightly so. And let me explain, because it's not going to make sense yet. So, sorry, I got distracted by a comment. So, I think this only feels like this character right here, the girl, it feels only important because it's been given to us, like, bit by bit. And so, at this point, it's been so frequently that we've been kind of hinted at with this character that it's like, it has to be important. At this point, if it's not, then we're going to be like, what? And you know what? In fact, people were a little bit like that when Frontiers released. But it gets even more exciting the longer we wait. Like the fact, that's why this is exciting for people out of context, right? Tori, yes, I will use the name since we now know, right? Tori. So, Tori over here, the reason it feels significant is because this character's been teased for so long that people thought that it was like a character for Frontiers. So, whatever this character's for has been in planning for a very, very, very long time. And typically, we know how long the dev cycle is for Sonic games, at least in the past. But since we're kind of at a turning point, that mystery, I think, is making things really, really exciting. And I think with this character, that's what they're playing with here. They're going, all right, so we know, like, it's basically, I'll put it really simply. Sega knows that they're in an unprecedented time. Obviously, they're doing so well, like 2 years in a row, top rated on Metacritic. They know it's unprecedented, even not just Sonic. It's not isolated to just Sonic. So I think they're just playing with that. They're going, okay, so our dev times can be bigger, our projects can be bigger, so we can surprise people. And we can get people excited over a long period of time. And it can feel satisfying. So while this is a risk, this is something they've never really done before. And I'm hoping that this is them saying, we plan to deliver because we haven't done this before. So I already addressed that Gamma hot take. So I want to get one that's juicy enough for me to really, really like slam the button and go for 5 minutes. We got one good one from Xpool not last week, the week before. I don't think I did any last week, but the week before that we got one from Xpool. Basically, he said that Sonic the Hedgehog 4 is a really great game. Y'all are just mean. And I still need to post that on my channel. I'm in transition myself as well, at work and stuff. Yo, real talk, Crossroads is a way better name. Yeah, but Crossroads doesn't feel as big. You know what I mean? Why'd the chicken cross the road? That's it. They definitely had something planned prior to Frontiers launch. She might be in the next game, right? And that's what's really exciting is like, wow, they were cooking something at the same time as Frontiers, so hopefully we get a game that's like Frontiers, but it had all the time Frontiers needed to cook and polish, right? Like the game we've been dreaming of, especially because we just got Unleashed recompiled. We want that art direction, but we want to be able to walk out in that art direction and interact with it at the same level that Frontiers gave us. But Frontiers didn't have that art direction, so it was less satisfying to be empowered to explore. Whereas in Unleashed, it's the opposite. There's so much you want to see and a lot of like limitations and invisible walls. And so it's very interesting. I love actually being able to compare those two games right now. Really interesting for discussion. We're never going to get through this. It's a good way to kind of just like...
No, you shouldn't. This is my office.
Focus the discussion.
Fellow professor, how do you do?
I'm so sorry about this. He is not another professor. He's just one of Eggman's lackeys.
How unfortunate. Can you make him leave?
Not usually.
It's so good to have a meeting of the minds with my fellow intellectuals. Conversations around the lair can be so tiresome.
Let's see. I don't know if you saw my last comment, but Sonic was in a daze when Tikal put him to sleep. Are you saying like because he didn't physically move? Like, hold on here. I'm not forgetting. I'm not forgetting the story of Sonic Adventure. Trust me, I've played that game so many times. Sonic was just asleep when Tikal put him under one. How do you, like, he's standing up. You know what I mean? I feel like this is one of those like teeny tiny details, hypothesis. Like you can, like, it's a very, very tiny detail that can be interpreted in many, many different ways. Like, there's nothing stopping Sonic from like running in circles in the same spot, and there is nowhere for him to go, right? It doesn't necessarily not align with what I was talking about before, right? If there was nothing physically, if no place Tikal wanted to put Sonic, then he wouldn't need to do anything but listen, right? Whereas Gamma needed to be on the Ark for Tikal's purposes or whatever it is, right? I just think of the Some Call Me animation. Wait a minute, what are you talking about? What is Fast the Sonic responding to? It's what Tails said in the last story. I went on a snooze cruise, I guess. Like, I know exactly the scene. I could probably like literally, I wonder if I could just like, well, I wanted to say like recite the entire script just from memory, but since there's so many intersecting stories, it's like I probably wouldn't be able to, because I never really played just like, well, as a kid I never played. Well, you never have the same playthrough, because you'll either, even if you play from Sonic's story from start to finish, the next story you play is always going to be different. At least for me, I don't play them all in the same order. Hey Kenny, what's up? What's going on? I'm looking for some hot takes to write down here, guys. Somebody's got to give me a juicy one so I can slap that button. Until then, we're going to have to watch Tails Tube so I can kind of just focus the discussion as we go. But, you know, the moment somebody says something interesting in chat, we're putting the brakes on.
Let's just continue on. Maybe he'll get bored and leave.
Don't count on it.
As I was saying, everyone, please welcome genius archaeologist and historian, Professor Victoria.
Oh, you're too kind, Miles. And please, call me Tori. But honestly, it's my pleasure to be on your show. I'm a bit of a fan of yours as well.
It's the greatest day of my life.
Pretty average for me.
Sonic 06 is the true Sonic Adventure 3. That's bait. That's bait. Do you actually believe that? That's bait. That's bait. Elaborate. That's bait or elaborate. It's just 15-second animation of Sonic looking goofy outside of the flashback. So thesis. My hot take was that the SA1 plot hole was deliberate. Well, you gotta unpack that. What do you mean? The plot hole was deliberate? Those are almost like, they kind of like go against each other. Hot take, Chip is a dog. They literally said in this, like, dog thing. So it's like, you know, like, Shadow is a hedgehog, technically, but he's also, like, this weird Black Doom alien thing. So it's not a stretch for Chip to be a dog and something else. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're talking about an ancient creature. It could be like that's how dogs could have started. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's fine. It's not really that confusing. It's not really a big deal. Hot tech. Oh, here we go. I love the way Frontiers gives way to connecting other ancient civilizations. Well, yeah, they try to, right? Yeah, I feel like they succeed. It gets a little bit criticized for that, Sonic. I feel like that take is really, really, really specific. It's about one specific detail, so it fits into the smaller discussions we're kind of combing through. We're gonna get the juicy ones, I'm sure. I think this is the other half of the game you don't see, is the hunt for the hot take, like the really, really spicy one that's gonna get everybody excited. But doing it in a way that's like productive and fun and concise, and there's a turn for someone to respond, and also implying that my argument will be flawed. It's the fun of it, seeing what I can learn. This whole like one-up culture of like, I will be the Sonic fan that knows all the things, and I will save Sonic alone. It is me that has all the knowledge of Sonic the Hedgehog. Like, what is that? But that's literally how people seem to behave. But it's so easy to make fun of. Like, we have to do, like, it's all of us. Like, this is such a mess. There's no way we can all do this. Hot take, I really like Tootsie Rolls. Same. But that's not a Sonic hot take. How do we feel about Tootsie Rolls, though? We might as well. Let's just see. And then I feel like I remember all the, like, lore details from this, but...
Perhaps you'd like to continue our earlier conversation about ancient civilizations.
Yes, of course. Let's begin at the dawn of recorded history with the first great civilization. We know almost nothing of these ancient beings. I would give...
Oh, wait. Okay, so I did... No, you know what? I'm glad we're watching this. I take it back. I would have forgot about this. So yeah, we do need to go through this. I really like... This is an entire aspect of Sonic's adventures that is unexplored. And it's really interesting because another thing we haven't really explored is, like, the whole... How do... Like... The whole, like, animal... We don't know what they're called. In the D&D thing I'm doing on Sam's channel, we call them Islanders, which we adopted from the Sonic fan film, of all things. I know that's funny, but I actually like the term. It seems to fit in with what IDW and Sonic Official, Ian Flynn, all of them, or the lore team, I should say, is what they're going for. I think they said in one of these Tales tubes as well that, like, they just happen to live on other islands. So, like, it fits in with the stuff they were saying in Sonic Origins about how Sonic met Tails and Amy. So I guess there's just like a primary continent. That's where Unleashed fits in, right? You're going to the larger continents where the humans live. I can see them fitting everything together, but what's really interesting about this, let me tie it back into what even started this tangent. What it's about to happen in this Tales Tube episode is that Tori doesn't believe Tails. Which is in such an interesting aspect, right? Like, Sonic is known throughout the world as a hero, but, like, a scientist is, like, skeptical. Like, it's like, I don't know if that really, like... So it's like, he's like a mythical creature. And it seems like that they're going to play with that a little bit. Like, that they haven't really crossed paths a lot. They're called Mobians. I am an older Sonic fan, and I feel myself having to stop myself from saying Mobians. I can definitely empathize with that. But the reality is that's from a completely different story. That's not what they are anymore. I like Islanders. Like, that's sticking. If official, like, the moment Sonic Official kind of gives a name, if it's like Islanders or it is Islanders, I'm like ride or die for that. Because I feel like the only reason they can't is because the fan film did it. Ugh. That'll be an interesting, I wonder if that'll be a legal problem. Hot take, here we go. Let's see what Jay Solaris says. Considering they are expanding the Robotnik family with Sage and possibly Tori, we got to get into that. I don't think these characters will humanize Eggman to a point where he will no longer be the villain. Oh yeah, that was a concern in Frontiers, right? Like Eggman not being the main villain has been a concern ever since Sage was introduced, which I doubt will happen. Yeah, no, I think Sage, I get why, because the most interesting characters introduce some element of uncertainty, right? Right, there needs to be something to question. And that's like, and you know, Frontiers' big appeal is the mystery of Sage, but also the ancients. But that's a big part of it is Sage, right? The character design. Oh, why is she glitching out? Like, wow, all of this stuff. And that's what you figure out. And then like Sage is also like, was just suddenly manifested. So like Sage is figuring out who they are as well. And like their sense of morality. So it's really cool to see a new character's outside perspective of the battle between Sonic and Eggman. And I like how Sage was empathizing with Sonic. And now it's going to be interesting to see how that pans out. Obviously, I think they're just going to keep juggling it. Like, I think they're going to keep, like, that's what makes Sage interesting. So I think Sage is always going to be bouncing back and forth a little bit to that, like, red and more cyan color tone. I think that's always going to happen. Because the whole Sonic series is, like, battling and asking questions and trying to figure out your own way and does not compute, right? Like, an AI won't be able to calculate that stuff. That theme is going to keep fitting with the way these characters function in stories, so. I think you're absolutely right, Jay Solaris. I think you're absolutely right. You know what, though? That could have been... That's close. That's really close, right? Like, it feels like a 5-minute discussion. I don't know if I'd be able to go all the way 5 minutes, but maybe I could. The Robotnik family... It's one of those things where it's too early to tell, I think. I think that's why. So, yeah. Close. We're getting so close. The hunt is on. We're gonna find something. There's always something. It erupts on the internet, but this is the only place where we're looking for it. We're gonna try to be, but not creating discourse. We're gonna create discussion, and it can be fun. Oh wait, are you okay, Sonic? You good? Come on. Very good. All right. So bringing it back to this video so I can continue it and then collect more hot takes from you guys. But I really like how it seems like the humans in general don't know a lot about Sonic's adventures. Maybe they hear about a few of them. Like maybe only a couple are very famous. Like maybe SA2, right? Or an SA1. SA2 and SA1. And you know what's interesting? Oh. So I'm a firm believer that over 06, I really do feel like Unleashed really is, like, it feels like Adventure 3. It feels like that's what they were thinking of. I know that the only reason 06 doesn't feel that way to me is because of that whole thing where there's all this dialogue that implies there was like a team-based system. And then you start realizing, no, it's just as much a sequel to Sonic Heroes as it would be the Adventure series. So I think because 06 came out around that time, it was really just, it was so close to the Adventure titles and Heroes and stuff. That was just a Sonic game. Like when they were making it, it was like the next 3D Sonic, cinematic 3D Sonic. Like, but Unleashed, because it was after 06 and things were bad, I get the impression Unleashed was like, okay, Adventure 3. It just feels like the budget bumped in the correct way, and World Adventure is just so close. Just so close. The little hub worlds. Like, Evan White Pants, that's me! I don't have them anymore, though, so I mean I don't know if this name will stick. I don't think it should. You can try, but I don't have the white pants anymore. I think I painted them. That was when I was like, that was when I was fresh out of college, where I was like, because I went to acting school. So like, half of your classes are like almost like fitness classes, right? So you need flexible, breathable clothing. But then also you might do like audition classes, or like you might be doing on-camera classes, so you can't have logos on your shirts. So then you can see how like very quickly like clothing does not become a priority, or there's a very specific, rigid expectation of what clothes are just gonna work for what you do. And then after that, I mean, I was in high school before that, and I did not know how to dress myself in high school. And you normally would really figure it out in college, but again, I was doing acting stuff, so like people would dress me up for other characters, or I would be wearing studio clothing. And now, so the white pants was like literally right after that, where I'm like, let me try some crazy stuff. There was a time where I did purple pants that were like not skin tight, but skinny jeans. Oh my God. And it was like a dress shirt that was like kind of flannel, but it was like purple and dark blue. So it took away from that, like the purple, like, because the purple wasn't like bright purple. It was like a darkish purple. But no, I don't have that either. Like Lords is like, get that out of here. But let's focus on Sonic. Let's focus it back up. See, we need this. Otherwise, I'm going to talk about nonsense. Like
Anything to know who they were and what they're
yeah, I'll give anything to know. Mimi.
You're in luck, because
Yeah, here we go.
part of an adventure that-
Oh, those guys. Turns out they were a bunch of watery aliens from another world. They came to Earth to escape space boogeymen and preserve their souls inside a digital dimension. But a couple of them stuck around and eventually turned into these little water babies. Aren't they so cute?
What the?
Technically, he's got the basic facts right. Not the way I would have explained it, but
Miles? This could revolutionize our understanding of life on Earth and in the cosmos. Oh, please tell me you documented everything thoroughly.
well, see, I was stuck in a digitized state, and we kinda lost access to the ancient databases.
Oh, so the basis for your claims?
Just trust him, bro.
Let's move on, shall we?
You're ruining this for me.
Tens of thousands of years later, the second great
I can
civilization...
kind of see where they're going with this. Like I'm putting together the pieces, and guys, watch my older videos if you've been following me for a while. I will say I speak very generally, but that's because I'm thinking like strategically. So I'm thinking about like corporate decisions, and they're going to think generally too, right? They have very general goals, and obviously specific art direction choices are too small for me to anticipate. But like, I feel very much like, again, whatever Tori is part of over here has been being planned concept-wise since during Frontiers at the very least, or even before. Which means there's a lot more time for art direction. We know how much time Frontiers got. We know why they ran into the obstacles that they did and why they used the assets that they did. Very, very interesting. Not only that, but one thing that I thought that was going to happen, and we still got in Frontiers, was... I should probably just play music when I'm kind of going on it. There were people to kind of talk to in the open zone of Frontiers, but not as many as I thought there would be. Obviously it's needed, right? You need people to contextualize things. I just thought there would be a little bit more citizens, but it was tied to the story, so it's fine. But that felt very much like them. It felt like while it fit with the story that they were trying to tell, corporate-wise, right, strategically, it felt very much like, okay, we can't really, it can't be that full. We don't have the ability to do that, so we need some way of making it more or less empty. We need just like a kind of mostly empty space for Sonic to mess around with. We can't really fill it that much. We're kind of limited with how much we can kind of do and design, right? Like we just don't have the resources to design that much. And then that's what leads you to having like designs, very specific designs of the ruins, right? Very particular patterns, right? We even saw it in the first teaser, right? That very interesting pattern that all the rocks take shape. But that's because they need something iconic that makes it feel distinct to the game. But then all the spaces in between are just generic assets, right? Just kind of like grass, trees. So they took the perfect middle ground of like, it's just distinct enough where you can tell it apart from other Sonic games, but also just generic enough where you can use enough pre-existing assets to fill in the blanks. That's what Frontiers was. So it feels very much like we're going to get that. I've been saying that, right? Get something like Frontiers, but it's filled in those blanks with actual designed characters to speak to, with things to talk about, and interesting character dynamics, right? So Tori being like, do you have proof? And Tails not having proof, right? So it might be that affects how the humans feel about these kind of animal characters, right? There's obviously a relationship. There's a need to prove something, but they go on all these kinds of journeys. So it's like, what do humans know about Sonic and Tails? Like, obviously Tori knows Tails exists, and like, she admires him, but like, doesn't know everything. So yeah, Tori could absolutely be a quest giver, but there's gonna be more people like that. We're gonna have a fuller Sonic world. You can even see them putting the pieces together on making a new frontier, but that's fuller, right? I think it's gonna be similar to Unleashed, but I think we're gonna finally get something where it's like, instead of in Unleashed where you've got the continents split, you're gonna be able to go between continents yourself. I think that's the only, like, I think that's the only way you can kind of up the ante. Like, of course, we're gonna have a lot of spin-off titles to kind of cushion the budget blow of that, but I think we gotta get a game that, like, you can see them trying to put together the world history, right? And the website we went over last week on Hot Takes Hunt with Dakiii. They want a chronological order of events, and then you got this open zone. How do you amp that up? You gotta make it not as just a zone, but extend into other zones so you can blend them together. So we got art direction, different people, different societies, different styles that you can seamlessly travel between. It just feels inevitable. So specifically what that will look like, I don't know, but I think we're basically going to go on the first Sonic adventure that lets us see in an open world, for real this time, where simultaneously where the animal-like, Sonic-like characters live and humans. And it's going to be playing with that relationship. Because it's easy, right? That's a question that everybody's asking in the fan base, right? It's a big question mark. That's obviously something that Ian's like, oh, that's going to feel fun for, like, it's going to feel satisfying for the lore team to take on, right? The lore team are fans, a lot of them, not all of them. But like, doesn't that technically lower the bar? Like, it makes it easier for these writers to write something that feels satisfying to us if they explore a question we're already asking. And we're asking that, right? Based on the choices that have happened so far, right? Forces introduced that question. Wait, where are the humans from Unleashed? Like, how does this all fit? They lay out the timeline, open zone. It all just fits. It all just fits. So yeah, that's more or less what I think is the next game that we're getting. And I think Tori is going to be somebody that helps you kind of like uncover all those pieces. It seems like it only makes sense. And we didn't even talk about this potential connection to Maria. We don't even know what that's about. I want to keep moving on here.
They were known as the Gaians, and they constructed massive temples all around the globe. And yet, the cultures that live around them today remember precious little about them. To think such a vast empire could be lost to the sands of time.
And to the core of the planet.
Does he have a mute button?
Again, he's technically right.
Indeed. Sonic and this little puppy guy used them to combine into a giant stone beast and defeat a big squid monster with 100 eyeballs.
They did, and then they all sunk into the
Oh,
core
I gotta
and
answer this
forget what
question.
happened.
Come on.
But they'll be back
Oh?
in
I also like how it's slightly humorous. Like, do you have any proof of that? And it sounds like so funny, but it's also epic. Like, I love it. You know what? Oh my god. I'm sorry. Sonic is like Dragon Ball, but this feels very much like, you know, like when Videl has to, like, after Videl's hung around, like the Z fighters and stuff, like, no, sorry. It's more like Gohan introducing Videl to these things and Videl being like, what? Or like, yeah, like starts like, yeah, okay, sure. And then like, huh? And then like, okay, this is real. So, and that's really fun. It's really fun because it simultaneously makes our main characters look really, really like exciting and impressive because we're desensitized to their feats. So we get to see someone's fresh perspective to them. But then we also get to see the importance, like globally, the importance of the things that have happened and their effect on just general people. It's just, and it's also funny. Like, it's win. So it's no surprise that they're going to take a similar route. I sometimes get criticized for comparing to Dragon Ball too much, and I think it's worth mentioning. And I want to make more diverse comparisons because Sonic is not just copying Dragon Ball. Like many other pieces of media, it's a combination of many, many different things. That's the only thing that makes sense because artists get into art because they like art, and so their art is gonna be influenced by the art they like. Otherwise, if it wasn't, then they'd be miserable. They'd be like, let me draw something I hate. Let me take all the lessons of things I love and do the opposite just because I want to be unique. No one does that. No one does that. That's not. So don't hyperfixate on being unique with art. Focus on being you, which is already unique. The more you do, the more unique it will be. Unique. Okay. Hot takes. Come on, let's go. I'm getting loopy here. Let's see. That would also help create a world that feels complete, like in the past. You could have tornado sections that take you to islands and the continents. I feel like I really want to. Like, there's definitely going to be continents that aren't connected, and I think that's gonna be how they're gonna leverage that flexibility, right? So here's where I'm talking about like corporate strategic decisions, right? Some continents are larger, so there's gonna be some rare instances where we can see the blend, the transition between like, because there's gonna be some places where animals and or these humanoid animals and people live in the same location. Right, we've seen that in art, like in the background, very subtly, but we've seen it. So there are regions where that happens, but it's just, I think it's more rare. So I think we're gonna see that in areas where the continents are larger, but there's definitely gonna be some loading screens in some areas because they're gonna wanna leave that open. Because it's always possible that like, at first they're gonna go, we want it seamless. Every world Sonic can travel to with no loading screen. They can start with that ambition, play around with it, and it might be that you literally hop on the tornado and it just like flies, right? They can build a tornado section without a loading screen, and it could be really impressive, and that's something they can brag about if it goes well. But you know, in any creative work, unexpected things can happen. So strategically you need to leave contingencies. And you know that, like, as I explain this, you'll start to be able to remember the other Sonic games that did this, right? You can even feel the watered down choices in the resulting product, and you can see the potential, sounds familiar, in past Sonic games. So this is the same thing. I'm talking about the same thing, right? So that's what I'm saying when I say the next game is going to be like seamless between worlds. That's going to be their larger ambition. But I think the result will be in pockets. There will be places where you'll get to really see like, you know how like in Unleashed, it's like Shamar, and then it's Adabat. You would be able to kind of like, there'd be like linking little islands. You'd be able to slowly see the climate change as like the day-night cycle changes. Like that's more impressive, right? Like in Frontiers, we had that day-night cycle for some reason synchronized to your movement. But that's more impressive if you make the deliberate decision to move away from a city, move to in the direction of a new one, and see yourself leaving that city to an uncivilized open area that might look a little bit like Frontiers, and then slowly enter a new community. That is how you feel speed. Because speed is nothing, like, literally, if there is no space, right? If Sonic is in a white void and he's running, and for some reason, like it's like Generations, right? Imagine he's in that white void. There is a ground for some reason, but there's no levels. He's just running past nothing, going nowhere, but technically moving. That, while that is fast by technicality, that is useless for a game because it is what you're going to. It's point A to point B. It's what's moving past you, and it's your ability to move past other things that makes you feel speed. And you're starting to see, like, more and more why I'm confident that this is where they're going, because it feeds so well into Sonic's existing skill set, right? It means that they don't have to push Sonic's actual speed. They can focus more on the feeling of speed by getting from point A to point B, and that's why the art direction needs to be very striking in two different areas, because then you have very clear elements to place as you approach to those new points. So imagine it like this. That was the elaborate way of explaining it. Simple way. Imagine a carnival world in this seamless open world Sonic game. Carnival zone, and then there's like Shamar. We'll say Shamar. It basically just means that those are going to be completely themed out, like the completed hub worlds from Sonic Unleashed, completely themed out. But again, there's no loading screens, and you can seamlessly come and go, so you don't have those little like globe things that stop you in your tracks and black screen, loading screen. You keep walking, but like Frontiers, where there's little pieces of ruins and not a lot of people around, that's happening between the worlds, but we get to see how these worlds mesh. Maybe there is actual remnants of a war between two communities. Maybe it explains why one became a casino. Maybe there's like a dark secret in the casino, and when you like approach it, you can see like the toxic waste that is needed in the distance to produce all the electricity for it, right? And maybe the world that you were in just before that is polluted because of it. Like, and that feels fast, because if you see it in the distance and you can go to it quickly and you want to go there and it feels different, you will feel faster. Even if you're the exact same running speed as in Frontiers, it's gonna feel faster because you want more to be there. Those towers that all look the same in Frontiers, it's just not as exhilarating because you're not actually traveling. You know? I think I've made my point. The problem I have with Rockwell and Victoria Theory is that Rockwell, what are we talking about? Oh wait, is that a movie? Sonic movie thing? Tori definitely knows the Earth shattered, but like Dark Gaia, monsters were all over the Earth, so how would she not be slightly aware of them, even if Dark Gaia fight seems unbelievable? Do you think the people, Jay Solaris, or everybody actually, because that was from Jay Solaris, but for everybody, do you guys think they could see the Dark Gaia creatures? Because it was kind of implied they were spirits, wasn't it? Right? Because people were getting possessed. They only came out at night. Like, could people see them? I don't know. There was no situation in which they would need to see them. There was no part where like a person is like, that there is the Dark Gaia, like. So I honestly think they're just spirits. Oh my god. This song is really hitting, guys. Crank that shit! Okay, Jace Loris is cooking, so let me just make sure I check. As if you were in Station Square, run on the train tracks and end up in the Mystic Ruins then. Or if you could see the final egg tower and actually run across the bridge. Yeah, but also, yes, that's a good example, Jace Loris. However, the fact that Sonic even rides a train is similar to the fact that, you know, the Starfall Islands were barren and dead. They made it narratively fit, more so in Frontiers. Right? And SA1, it was more like, don't ask questions. Sonic just wants to ride the train, okay? But since they all did, it was just normalized. But it is a limitation. It is justifying a limitation. So I honestly think it's gonna be more fun if there's an actual Sonic way to get to that new location. But how cool would it be if you were like running next to a train? Like how cool would it be if like you're running next to a train and it purposely knows, right, where you're at. So the train, it's not coincidence. The train will like spawn and try to synchronize with you. And they could play like just a really simple scene where there's like a kid in there. And again, the game knows where you are. So it lines the kid up with the window that you're at. The other ones can just be doing generic actions just to fill the background. Like whatever, like crowd loop animations, doesn't have to be crazy. But just one kid lined up with where Sonic is. It'd be really cool if that kid like went and like, oh my God. And then like Sonic reacted to it and went like, you know what I mean? Like just tiny little like immersing it in the world, right? And again, it's the points from point A to point B that makes Sonic feel fast, right? If you saw train tracks and you're like, oh, this is gonna be so cool, but they're empty, you run next to them, you run along them, you're like, I wonder where the train is. And if it does it so that like it just shows up in your blind spot and it can just, or it's like randomized and it shows up sometimes, like you'll try to bait for that interaction, sometimes it doesn't happen. But again, fishing for that experience, exploring for that experience, trying something is just, and yeah, it is. No, that's a scene from Superman. It absolutely is. But I don't, again, I wouldn't use the word like copying to describe that. It's just kind of like a hero waving at a fan. You know what I'm saying? Like, hot take, you talk too much. This is literally a talk show. That's why we made it like this. You don't want me to play games, okay? Sometimes I do, but the people who know me, whenever I try to play games on stream, my priority always ends up being talking to you guys anyway. I mean, hey, it's a hot take, but like I can't go on about that one for 5 minutes because it would literally just be, that's what I like to do. You don't have to watch. Like, I would totally get you if it was like, if I was like an ad that was playing before your video that you want to watch, but I didn't do that. And if that's what's happening to you, it wasn't me. Because there are things like that. Actually, I've seen that happen to me before, or it's happened to me before where it feels like just a YouTuber paid to be in front of the video I want to watch. And the timer's like 3 minutes. That could be a really clever detail. Marvel's Spider-Man kind of does that when you take the train, but that is specifically a cutscene though. Yeah, but I think that nails on a point, the same point I'm making, Jay Soloris, where it's like to truly feel like Sonic or Spider-Man, it really is about what you do when you get to the point and less about how you get there. Because if you're only focusing on how you get there, it's not really that immersive. That's why I say that there's like boost gameplay fatigue. I feel like boost inherently has a fatigue in it. Like it has a lower shelf life, lower. It ages very fast because it is an obstacle course. It is about mastery and memorization, and its lifespan is what I'm looking for. Its lifespan is directly determined on how many secret alternate paths there are, so that you can go back and go, oh, what was that little thing, and then you find it. But once you've really done them all, it's less fun the more and more you kind of go through it. But again, it's just basically all I'm saying is the more open a Sonic level is, the more choices that you have to make on your own. Like if it's more like Tony Hawk, where you are almost building the stage based on your choices, obviously that's gonna have more lasting appeal to people. So that's all I mean. It's not a stab at boost formula. It's just kind of like, I can kind of see the ceiling. Like I could just see the ceiling of that gameplay style, and it's like, we can kind of sit. We can sit on the game. We can sit on that gameplay style. We really can, and we can sit on it for years. We could, and we can like innovate on it. We can do a little. But me, you know me. I'm more of an artist than I am like a gamer. So for me, I'm like, the Sonic game itself should also be tied into what the story's meaning, right? Go your own way, find your own path, you know, be your unique self. When Sonic stagnates and does like the same gameplay style repeatedly, just starts to be like, oh, well, you know, doesn't fit as well, but that's fine. We went over this last week too. I feel similarly about the movies. It's like, wherever it kind of strays away from the original meaning of Sonic, of course I'm gonna be like, yeah, I don't prefer it as much. I like Sonic, obviously, but it's a different thing, so that's why it's saved. Prime gets no such, and I think Prime and the movie are just as guilty about being not accurate, but only one of them is trying to be like canon. Okay, let's grab some hot takes. Let's see, X-Pool. He gave us one last time. You think the Chao sometimes think about going back to being ancients? How we want to go back to being monkey? I wonder if that's what's about that's what it's about to happen, right? Because the Chao, it's not explained why they turned into Chao. They just kind of say, like, oh wait, we're about to see that happen in this video. What? Let me continue watching the video. No, this was a good idea to watch the video. I get very easily distracted.
Like 10,000 years, give or take.
Miles.
Did they already talk about the ancients?
They just kind of say memorable adventures and see fantastic things, but what you're claiming, and I'm being kind here, stretches credulity. What?
They already talked about it.
Again, he's technically right.
Indeed. Sonic and
Got the basic facts right.
babies, souls inside a digital...
I was part of an adventure.
Oh, those guys. Turns out they were a bunch of watery aliens from another world. They came to Earth to escape space boogeyman and preserve their souls inside a digital dimension. But a couple of them stuck around and eventually turned into these little water babies. Aren't they so cute?
What the?
So that's literally all they give us. Yeah, so so again, thinking of the questions that the fans are already asking, right? I'm sorry, but obviously from a writer standpoint, you got to combine, you got to give yourself you got to give yourself some strength, some secret weapons, I guess, right? Like it needs to be a mix of what people are already asking and some surprises. That's how you create a satisfying story. Duh, right? If it's absolutely like too much in the unexpected territory, people are going to be like, what is this? But it's also, if it's too much expected, then it's like, that was literally nothing. I was not excited at all. It just blended in. So that's all I'm saying. It's obviously a mix of new and expected. And that makes it's even easier if the game is exploring questions fans are already asking, and we're asking those questions because of games that they've already set up. So they're starting to set up things as a normal story does, right? So they make clear to us in Frontiers that the ancients did that. They turned into Chao. But we were all like, what? Why? And I'm thinking they were hiding from the end. So how crazy would it be if they just start going, all right. And some of them are like, finally, I don't have to hide anymore. But some of them are like, no, I'm okay. I'm okay like this. We're happy with this. So I think that's what's going on. I think that's what's going to go on. I think some ancients will try to come back. And I don't know if that'll be a good thing. It's very possible that there's a connection between the ancients and the kind of animal Mobian characters. Or islanders. What if one of the Chao morph back into, or they're trying to morph back into, oh my god. Lore team, can we hang out just a little bit? Okay, so you know how Chaos take on the appearance of animals when you give them? I think because there's no fear of the end, Chao will just kind of start getting bigger. And I think I've always had this theory. Are Sonic characters? No, that's too crazy. Sonic characters, are they Chao? Like, it's weird, right? Because you get Sonic Chao. You get Amy Chao, you get Tails Chao. Like, they can just turn into the characters. Now, again, that's, from the corporate standing. It's like, oh, they're so cute. It's like the characters that the fans already like. So, yeah, no duh. The cute version of the existing characters, no duh. That's going to be successful. I get it. But lore implications, though. What if they're in mid-transformation and they're taking on the appearance, but in a, like, really, like, creepy, distorted way? Like, imagine a Sonic Chao is no longer afraid of the end and kind of grows up a little bit, but it looks like a weird fusion of Chaos and Sonic. And what if they have feelings about the humans and they start messing stuff up? And because the humans don't know a lot about the Sonic cast, that's going to create, like, maybe a war, a lot of conflict, accusations, like weird dynamics. I think they're gonna something with the ancients, the Sonic characters, whatever they are, and I think the ancients and Sonic characters have more of a connection, and humans with the Robotnik side, right? The Robotnik family. I think that's how they're gonna explore humans and what's going on in the human world. And I think the ancients and humans intersect somewhere along the lines with Gerald and Eggman. And that starts, and you start to go, oh wait, Shadow is a hedgehog too. Chao's Black Doom, Chaos Control. Why do the Black Arms, why are they able to use Chaos Control? Are they sort of the ancients too? Like Hero and Dark ancients. That's what I'm saying. Hypothesis. That is literally what I'm saying. Are the Black Arms literally just Dark Chao? No, not war like that range. I didn't like how Forces did it, because they were doing, like, the art direction was war, like soldiers and like we're in a war. I get it. I don't want that, but I'm saying, like, that's the narrative implications of a war. You know what I mean, range? So just Sonic not being as respected and being in a similar situation, an interesting similar situation to where he is in SA2, where he's the impostor. However, it's not just Sonic, it's literally all of them at the same time. So every single Sonic character is now, and it might not just be specifically the animals. Again, like I was saying, it might just be Chao, because maybe Sonic and his friends interacted with the Chaos Emeralds a lot, so they're just embodying people who have been around them a lot. I don't know if they should go with the whole, like, every single Mobian or animal is like enemy number one. I think there's just panic and chaos, and it destabilizes the world, so that when you're navigating the world, there's a lot of different quests and problems to solve, or like choices to make, right? You need to create an uncertain world to create this mystery, so that when you're selling the game, this open world game this time, there is like something to discover. So I think what they're going to do is they're going to be like, this is the world that you know, right? There's going to be locations you're used to. That's why we established the whole Sonic lore and laid it out on the website. But the circumstances have completely changed. So it's a perfect fusion of what we're already asking, what we already know, and something completely new. And I think what they're cooking. Let's see if I'm right. Let's see if I'm right. Chat. Aro Blaze YouTube says, Sonic characters being the descendants of the ancients has been echoing in my mind since Frontiers, exactly because the Chao can mutate with the animal critters. It even mirrors the Babylonians deal. Wait a minute. I absolutely am with you, Aro Blaze YouTube. That ending part. The reason I'm asking is like, I have a feeling you're cooking, so like what? I know there's this weird genie spirit that comes out of the little pot, but like, why is he a bird? He's not a bird. Like, what is that? Can you explain that one for me? I know there's something to it, but I don't know what's going on. Consequences for Eggman, Gerald, and the Echidna tribe's actions. I think isn't it interesting that the Echidna tribes? I feel like that's like one of the first civilizations where the ancients turned into an animal. I honestly think it's like they're ancients. I genuinely do. Like, for example, in theory, like, oh my god, it all fits. Ah! Oh my god, it all fits, guys. Trip. One of the only other people that turn gold is Trip. This pure-hearted, you can see Trip like looking after nature and like, but he's clumsy, but is still happy. Turns gold. That free spirit nature. It's very rare to harness the full potential of the Chaos Emeralds. But when you do have it, you get 100% of it. And I think that's why Trip turns into a dragon. It's just, that's what happens when the ancients get this power. I know Trip's a girl. I might have misgendered Trip by accident. But no, I know that. I might have just like accidentally said something. I do know about that Ultra Beast, actually. Trip's father does appear in the IDW comics. And there's a tribe and a responsibility. Yeah, and like I think it's like Trip is like chosen. Is it the there's like an armor that's like ancient armor, I believe. I forget what Trip's role is though. Hey, we should probably just look into that. Why not? Oh, you know what? I feel like I should save that for when my setup isn't all over the place. I feel like I'm gonna... You thought parents were illegal still? What? Cancel me because I misgendered Trip. It's over for me. Trip's tribute is what could have happened if Knuckles' tribute hadn't provoked Chaos's angel. Tribute? Yes, it's like Trip is like perfect chaos. Like what I'm trying to say, sorry, I did get distracted. So thank you for putting me back on track, Little Pancake. I'm basically saying that Trip is the pure version of perfect chaos. And the ancients obviously have the ability to transform and shapeshift. But I think it takes time. And Chaos Emeralds and time go hand in hand. They turn thoughts into powers. So I think the intense rage of their entire civilization and fear of the end is what makes Chaos this like huge chaos of destruction, or sorry, god of destruction, because it's literally like manifesting the end. Like all of their fears just kind of happens. And Trip is the manifestation of just like nature's power on its own, right? Trip is clumsy, and it just kind of like, there's so many reoccurring themes of just like, go your own way, let it happen, let it be like loud and proud and messy and your truest self of just going with the flow. I mean, they're called the Chaos Emeralds, and they give you power, like, duh. And Sonic turns super, but he doesn't turn into a beast. So he I think is more controlled. So Sonic is, that still makes Sonic special, right? You find a way to keep Sonic, because I know there's a lot of Sonic fans who like Sonic to be just this guy, you know, just a guy, and this doesn't prevent that, you know. He's just another Mobian or islander that evolved from the ancients, was a Chao at one point, but see, this is the thing. In my theory, where some of the Chao kind of turn into larger creatures, that means that the Sonic cast are just Chao that decided to not be afraid. Yeah, it isn't all. I mean, there has to be some blanks. Otherwise, I wouldn't be interested in the future. It was her grandfather, actually. Good to clarify. I gotta pick up those classic comics, because I feel like I like the look of the classic comics way better. Well, just a guy, meaning the digital dog, like, I honestly like the idea that Sonic went his way so much and just followed his impulse and passion for freedom and chaos. That's why he's so fast. He's always moving forward. Like, I think that's what it's supposed to mean. He got so good at moving forward that he's good at it. Like, so good at it. And the reason I think that is because he's mentally like that, and his movement and his gameplay and his mentality all align perfectly. Whereas a lot of speedsters, they're fast, and so they use that for comedy, and then they think of the flaw immediately. They go, okay, so like, if Sonic is really fast, then they're gonna think they're untouchable, and this is how the story's gonna be interesting, because they're gonna think they're untouchable, and then something's gonna go wrong. That's not where the interest of Sonic comes from. And I think it's like a trap that a lot of writers fall into, because there are so many speedsters that do that. And it doesn't help that Sonic does tease his opponents. And he does kind of act untouchable, like, but there's nuance, you know. Okay, RO Blaze YouTube says, just tagging just in case. What I hinted before was about Zero Gravity's story, with the origins of the Babylonians being an alien race that crash landed on the planet. Oh. Yeah. So yeah, I'm getting the impression that okay. I'm getting the impression that ancients are just like they're literally ancients. They're the ancient form of life. And it seems very much like the stem of all life. Because think about it, why are they able to shapeshift? Maybe it's not that they shapeshift, but that they're square one. You know what I mean? Like if people were made of clay, it only becomes a person until you shape it into a person. But the ancients are the clay. So instead of shape shifting, it was always them to begin with. They're not becoming like animals. They're just doing what they already did. They were the first bird. They were the first hedgehog to begin with. But then how does that explain the flickies? Like, do they have realistic animals too? Again, I hope they explore all this, because these are the questions we're asking. But I think they can do something really interesting where Sonic is still a guy that just had normal abilities when he was really young, and just because he kept focusing on what he loves to do, he got good at it. Sonic's a chaos user. Sonic is not your ordinary speedster. I mean, every writer of every different speedster is gonna say like there's something that makes them distinct. And that's gotta be true, but I feel like a lot of them have that flaw. I do think a lot of them have that flaw, and there's definitely Sonic media that gives Sonic that flaw. So it's like a little bit of a vicious cycle. What is this song? So we got to the end of the Tails tube. It was just the revealing of Orbot's plan of just embarrassing Tails. But it's interesting because the whole doubt between Tori and Tails now made me go on this whole premise, right? Using this doubt that the humans have of Sonic's adventures as an entire plot piece to create uncertainty in an existing world. So we're already curious about exploring the synergy between the different Sonic islands and worlds, right? And how they interact. But if we change the circumstances globally, it's similar to Unleashed, but Unleashed was one of the first times we went around the globe. So it's less about like connecting things and more about the first time. So they didn't really need that unique premise of splitting up the world to make it feel new. Whereas now we need it a little bit more. Honestly, the splitting up of the world made the loading screens and stuff make more sense. The Sonic movies are terrible. Sonic Frontiers was also terrible. That's a hot take. Sonic Frontiers was terrible. The Sonic movies are terrible. I can almost press the button to that, but I feel like it needs to be a little bit more specific, right? It's literally just thing bad. But this is how it starts, though. Because if you're willing to make that claim, Monado, where it's just so general, obviously you feel pretty strongly about it. So there has to be something specific that made you come to that conclusion. And that might be that might be what I've been looking for this entire stream. Haters are welcome. You just need to be specific. I will press this button, that timer will start, and I will try to be concise in 5 minutes. But hey, if the topic doesn't come, it's not gonna come. The thing I've realized is that when I do these 5-minute timed discussions, it's actually how I gauge if a subject is interesting enough. Like, how can I expect my viewers to watch me talk about a subject if I don't even find it worth talking about for 5 minutes without having to engineer or structure an interest? Do you know what I'm saying? The idea is that if my passion is about talking and communicating with you, then the topic should be interesting. If I didn't answer it, I think so. Just don't spam it, Halo. Try adding Mardiculous. But again, I don't have the Tails channel YouTube login anymore, so I'm in the chat as Mardiculous. But that makes more sense when Dakiii is here to co-host with me. Because Dakiii is in charge of Tails channel now, and I'm really just the co-host. Dakii's the host, so it kind of fits a little bit more, because Dakii's normally here to be Tails channel in the chat. Josh says, feels like media, such as Prime and the movies, sort of hurt the brand's rep to being more and more generic. I agree, Josh. Prime more so because they decided to say it's canon, which I think that was a mistake. But even so, I like how you worded that, Josh, because even if it's not, it still gives the wrong impression, especially because we got a cat invading our timer here. Meow. It still does, it's brand confusion, right? It's going to perpetuate some characteristics of the characters that not a lot of us think are authentic. And I agree. like, for example, I'm worried that is it infantize? I'm worried that Sonic in the main games will be infantized, and it's in the same way that he's seen as a child in the movies. I really like I honestly think that, and I've said this on my own channel about the first Sonic film, I do think it's necessary, especially in the year that the Sonic movie came out, and because it's the first time that Sonic has been seen at that scale, right? Considering the context of where the Sonic brand was at when the movie released and how the film industry was when the first Sonic movie released, I agree with their decisions. Do I want a fully Sonic animated movie that's authentic? And while I prefer that and support it way more, yes. I do think the Sonic movie as it is, the first one, had to come first, though. I do think audiences are now in a position where they could receive a more authentic piece of Sonic media, but I'm worried that instead of going that route and being like, okay, now Sonic is palatable, they're ready to see and experience the true Sonic. I feel like that's less likely and more likely that Sega will get cold feet and be insecure about Sonic and take some things away. And the reason I think that is because that's a pattern. Like it or not, but this has always been the case. I have come around to the Dark Age characterization of Sonic with Jason Griffith. But when I was a kid, I preferred Ryan Drummond. And I think when I zoom out, and now that I look at it with my experience, I think Sonic started with more... localization was more chaotic. So while we were simultaneously getting something a little bit more authentic to the Japanese script, because localization was in its infancy, so it didn't have as tight as a grasp on all media, but that doesn't mean that it wasn't in existence. It was just in its infancy when it came to video games. And Sonic is its own weird thing, so it's gonna have to approach and localize every piece of media really differently. So the Sonic I grew up with was in that era, kind of chaotic and messy when it came to translating a Eastern story. And even the Japanese writers of SA1 and SA2, because they knew at that point that Sonic was already popular, way more popular in the US, they were researching American tropes and putting it on Sonic. Very confusing scenario. I'm gonna get to the Dark Ages now with Jason Griffith. While localization had a tighter grip on media and a better understanding of video games at that time, Sonic was less popular. So localization is actually gonna be less of a priority, but that is in tandem with budget. So while that's why we get this disconnection in the Dark Ages, why it's even called the Dark Ages to begin with. Because then all of a sudden you get this breathing room for Sonic to be really, really unique, because they start to know that their audience isn't as large. So the Japanese writers aren't going like, we gotta like appeal to Americans. No, the context when Sonic is a smaller franchise is, we gotta write a Sonic story. What is a Sonic story? Let's look at what we did when we started. Let's look at what's been done by the people who followed us, and let's keep doing that. Sonic is smaller, so you got to appeal to the existing fan base. So I actually currently, even though I prefer Ryan Drummond, and I still do, I'm the same person. I prefer the voice. But honestly, characterization-wise, I do think people are cooking when they say that the Dark Ages is as close as you're gonna get to a Sonic that is as lightly localized as possible. That doesn't mean that localization isn't present. It's just less imposing. And then you get all the attention on Sonic again with Sonic 06, which they wanted to do, but when it's negative attention, that localization distorts. It combines with insecurity and then distorts the character. And that's what leads us to the meta era. And that's why the Roger discussion is so hard. I'm sorry, guys. I say this in my voice acting video on my personal channel. But because Roger was hired at the time, I'm sorry, but that's how media and art works. You cannot remove context. That is the context. some people are going to approach the situation with no context, very little context, and that's going to be children, right? And obviously the creators, the writers of stories like Sonic Colors and the 2010s era Sonic, meta era, whatever you want to call it, obviously they knew that, right? They're no longer focusing on the pre-existing audience because it's before 06. So they go, okay, everyone's looking at us right now. Everyone's gonna be paying attention to what we do right after this. So we have to make a bold choice to listen to those other people. So unfortunately, Roger will always have a little bit. It's like a puzzle piece. Roger himself is like the square. Darn it, I wish I had like a... I'm not calling him a square, just for imagery's sake. But imagine a square. The drawing isn't gonna work because this is really light pencil. Imagine a square, but then context is the little kind of circles on the outside of a puzzle piece that link it to other pieces of information. So it's not Roger's fault, right? Roger is the little part in the middle, but he's inseparable of the context that led to that point. He's inseparable from the decisions and the mentality that led to him being there. And it worked. So Sonic Colors succeeded, brought in a lot more people, but now you've got that huge split. And we're dealing with that right now, right? Because you're getting people, because it actually turned out that a lot of those people that started hating on Sonic in Sonic 06, they didn't like Sonic in Adventure 2 either. That's the problem. And I'm sure there was internal struggle. Because Sonic Adventure 2 was made fun of. Sonic Adventure 1 was made fun of. Sonic was made fun of. Like, the stories were silly. It's a... Like, they're taking it really seriously. And get this, I'm old enough now to have been a kid who grew up with the crazy Sonic 06 stories, Mephiles, like, being in Shadow's image, and, like, gods, and the world exploding, right? I was a kid watching it, and I would make fun of it. I'd be like, oh my god, like, I'm from the future, I'm Silver, I like, random shit, right? Like, as a kid, I was going like, what the hell is going on? This is so silly. But the moment it stopped, I was like, oh no. Oh no. Oh no. The thing that made it silly and so easy to make fun of was why it was so fun. So I'm sorry, but when they succeeded with Colors, it was a false success. Because I'm confident, and I have no statistics to back this up, but I'm confident that Colors' success was everybody waiting to tell a really fucking great joke on the next Sonic game. And they went, oh, well, now I can't because Sonic's making fun of himself, so. Anyway. And that was it. And that's actually the worst. Because now Sonic's burnt on both sides. You got Sonic looking at people who only kind of half cared about him anyway. And then you got the people who cared about him being like, bro, I've been here for years and you fuck up and it's my fault. I bought 06. Why am I paying the price? Why am I getting made fun of? So yeah, no shit, Sonic fans are gonna be like, what the hell? And no shit, they're gonna be mad at Roger unfairly. I'm gonna say, like, but again, it's not, targeting Roger's performance or any of that stuff is ridiculous. Is absolutely ridiculous because it's about that. It's about what I just talked about. You are mad at the insecurity that Sega felt. You are mad that Sega looked at people who don't care about Sonic to make that choice. That doesn't mean that Roger doesn't care about Sonic. It doesn't mean that the people working on Sonic right now don't care about Sonic. It doesn't mean that he doesn't sound like Sonic. But those are the distracting facts that make it impossible to talk to Roger fans about characterization. Cold take. I don't care about Tails. I even find him annoying sometimes. You can't say that, little pancake, on Tails channel live. How dare you? Annoying? I can only think of like one instance where he's like annoying, like sort of, which is like OVA maybe, but I've grown to like it. So I don't know. Roger is a scapegoat. Yeah, he absolutely is. And here's the thing, the game devs are also. Every time we go, oh, so much potential. Oh, or like all the excitement we feel before a Sonic game comes out. And then if it doesn't come out good, like no matter how old you are, you've had to experience this once or twice. But just remember the honeymoon phase when it first came out or when it was about to come out. That is what the devs are doing. They decide the exciting premise. Well, not entirely, but they work on that. They make it exciting, because if not, where would the motivation for them to have that job come from? Like, yes, obviously they're paid, but like, there also has to be like incentive for specifically working at Sega, working on Sonic. Like, there are other options. And if everybody was working there out of necessity, you wouldn't really get a very good game. So like, it really is the people who cut corners and the people who need it to come out on Christmas or whatever it is. It's always because these games have to be made in a capitalist world. Like, I'm sorry, I'm never gonna hate on the artist. But here, okay, you know what? That's a bad statement, because there are artists that are awful. There are artists who are commissioned to do art, and they just put it off. They don't answer their clients. They say they're spending longer on it than they are. It is very possible that an artist is toxic and takes advantage of the person funding the works. That's why I think I don't have a solution for it, if I'm being honest. Actually, no, I do. But it's one of those things that's very, very, I love this song. I'm getting distracted by the song. It's arts education, guys. In the same way that they make math like so important, because they're like, you're gonna be like paying, you gotta do your taxes, and like you're gonna do like, you know what I mean? It's used like it, and they're right, like, yeah, sorta. I mean, we have calculators on our phones, but you know, it's sure, whatever. Our science, you know, it's science. It's like life. It's like right in front of you. But like, what I'm really surprised about is art is too. Like, what? Like, you're sitting in a classroom, right? Look around. A graphic designer designed the ABCs banner that's going across the whole classroom. It's all around you. Bill Nye the Science Guy. Who made that show so good that every classroom plays it? Why do kids remember the song? And why do they remember Bill Nye's performance? Is it because he's got high energy and he makes large hand gestures and larger facial expressions like a cartoon character? Like, oh my God. Can you imagine how better off kids would be if they were like, oh yeah, that's why. But no, it's just all numbers and stuff. So they just like walk away and go, yeah, Bill Nye is just the science guy. Like that's as much as they think about it. That's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. That's just, you know, like, oh, the ABCs thing. Yeah, you know, it's just an educational thing. I'm not thinking about somebody, you know, sitting there designing it and thinking about it or who the artist is. Like, you ever notice that those little like cute beady-eyed little people are all the same style? Like, there was one woman who did classroom decorations. And I didn't even think about that until recently. I do not like that like MIDI guitar. I am not fond of that. Let's there we go. I think the reason I'm not fond of that MIDI guitar is because I dabbled in MIDI music as well, so I've heard that synth and I'm like, nope. But it's crazy. Art is like so, I think they should call it something else. I think they should call it media class. I am trying to not right click on something. Can I? There we go. I think they should call it media class. I think they should expand it into like journalism a little bit. Because I think because art requires research too, and an understanding of your world, and fact checking, and like understanding your target audience, right? You know, journalism, understanding the community you're delivering news to. It's media literacy, being able to take in a news show and knowing if it's all cap is the same as like watching a movie and being able to tell if it's a passionate work of art from a human or if it's AI slop propaganda. Like, I'm sorry, but sitting here punching numbers into my fucking calculator, calculating the distance between Timmy and Billy and the tree next to the parking lot, the distance between those things, I'm sorry, but I don't care. Why is that more important than being able to decipher if propaganda is being put into my mind and making me hate a group of people? Like, and I know like some schools like have art required at some levels, but I'm talking like we're comparing it to math and science. Like math, science, and English is just like you just gotta, man. You just gotta. Fine, cool. Why not art? I just hate how it's like it is about self-expression. It is. And I'm happy for people who talk about that. And I'll talk about that sometimes too, in meaning and intent and communication. But I'm also on the side of the fence of like, what are you doing? It is also just like basic information. Like basic, like you wanting to choose a unique desktop background on your computer. It's like you choose something, an image to represent you, and you deliberately make that choice. And people don't think about this stuff because they're never taught about it. They get depressed. They come out of high school not knowing how to dress themselves, like me. And how you dress yourself is literally how you look to all people. It's why this character, their clothing is what we're looking at to make comparisons that they're in the Robotnik family. Do you not think that those same media analyst techniques apply to the people that you see when you walk down the street? The prejudice you might have? The pre-existing stereotypes? Like if you explore that in a class and you understand the function that the clothes that someone wears has on you, then you're less likely to make irrational choices. You are gonna think things through. Like I don't have to sell this. This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. This is so common sense. I'm not even saying like everybody has to be an artist, everybody has to draw. No, that's not. Like I remember being in art class and like having the jocks in class like doing it. Only the first year was there a prerequisite for an arts class, and a lot of them take dramatic arts because they're like, oh, all I gotta do is like read a script and like then I can just pass. But like they are also what they walk out of that class being the most boring people. Because that all drama class is asking for is like to find the unique thing about you that makes you engaging just by standing on stage. And why would that not be useful for literally everything you do? Again, a lot of art teachers, I guess they're huffing their own farts or whatever, and they're going like, you have so much power, and you do, but like I'm talking about like, do you want people to listen to you? Would it be annoying if they ignored you because you're boring? That's it. And you're only boring because you're nervous, because you've never explored self-expression. You don't know uniquely what you like. Like it's just, you gotta look inward. Come on. Like look inward for just a little bit. Like who are you and why should someone listen to you? If you've never thought about how you come across to other people, No different than how a video on a screen would come across to other people, or a drawing would come across to other people, or the alphabet graphic design in your classroom would come across to people. Would kids find it friendly and welcoming? Would they want to look at it because it's colorful? Oh my God, I'm thinking about how it's possible that a malicious artist could be using colorful design choices to make me look at something I don't want to look at. But no, it's not important. We're just gonna let people be manipulated. How is this happening right next to history class? How is this happening right next to history class? I don't understand this. History, like literally, I bet you there were times where I went to history class and then went to art class right after, and history was like, okay, so Russian propaganda, they got artists to do it and it worked. And then you go to art class and then you literally have the same people going like, yeah, art doesn't matter. I don't really care. Like classmates, not the artist. They're not the art teacher, obviously. But it's like, hello, 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 knock, knock, knock. Wake up, hello. This is not foo-foo bullshit. This is not like, no, it's communication. We're talking. We're communicating with other people, and if you do art, you don't have to worry about language. You're not limited. I am heading to your location right now to attend one of your classes. Fast as Sonic, I'm also learning as I go too. Like, I mean, in the context of being a teacher, I'm young. In the context of being a Sonic fan, I'm old as shit. I'm in the awkward in-between stages of where I'm like, shit, I like legitimately like this. I don't want to leave, but I'm kind of old. Halo, you probably copied and pasted your take like 8 million times by now, and I still haven't looked at it. I'm sorry. Might be dumb and silly, but when I became a mod on TC, I started thinking about the words I use way more carefully, which is extra hard since English isn't my first language. Interesting. But Halo, here's the thing. You also post a lot of memes, and I immediately got your like playful nature because of how you're responding. Like, again, it's not just the message you send, it's when you send it, it's what you're responding to, it's everything that happens before, right? Nobody understands you 100%. You're never gonna 100% accurately transmit your thoughts until they make Neuralink copy paste your exact thought code or some weird shit. But for now, you'll always be limited. But that's the game, right? Art is going, okay, I'm gonna put everything I can, every possible visual, mental, scientifically proven strategy to generate focus on a message, but speak in a way that doesn't require literal words, using like shape language and composition on the page, whatever the art form is, right? You're just heightening every element to almost hypothetically scream, or like media-wise scream as loud as you possibly can. But I think it's a mistake if an artist is rigid on what the reaction is, right? It's about being specific about what you want to say so that people are interested in participating in the discussion. They're trying to figure it out, and they won't always perfectly get there. But if they perfectly got there, there would be none of that engagement. It's the mystery. It's the, who is this person? What are they like? I haven't seen this person say this before, or like, this is a new thought. It's from their unique brain. Like, how do I contrast? How does my brain contrast? How can I fit it with my ideologies? Human to human. It's knowing that it's a human and another brain, knowing that there's going to be a gap in understanding because you cannot transmit your thoughts via code and electronics. That's the game. That's what makes it fun. And the reason I use the word game is because games have self-imposed rules to make it fun. Limitations make things fun. AI art is stupid because they're aiming for limitless possibilities. Possibilities in life are limitless, and technology loves that, right? Technology loves taking the impossible and making it possible. But art is about asking the question. To pretend you have an answer is the most boring art ever. And I think it'll never work because fundamentally that's how technology is made. They need to be offering the answer. But the answer to being an artist is exploring, forever curious. So even if they successfully made like a robot artist, they'd be like updating it in real time over and over and over and over again. And then it would just basically be human operated. Like they would need a new algorithm trained on a new human every 10 minutes. And that's even being generous, with a new unique style. And then at that point, why don't you just remote control the robot? Like, it's like, I don't. On the point of limitation is, does it really? I mean, you know what? I'm soul searching as well. So, I mean, it's not, okay. Honestly, guys, you guys have encouraged me to yap. For whatever reason, over the years, you guys have said, I like you yapping. That's why I try to like look at the chat and pull things from what you guys are saying as much as I possibly can, because I'm not gonna lie, there's always gonna be a layer of imposter syndrome. So I'm going like even when I did the 5-minute thing, there were people like, can you talk more? I'm like, what do you mean? Why? I talk enough. So I'm playing both sides here. I don't know. I'm happy. I might make these streams more structured. I'm open to interpretation. But for now, if this is what works, this is what we're gonna do. But yeah, so the connection of Tori and Maria. Let's do the thumbnail some justice. You know. I kind of am with Sam. I think Sam said on Blue Sky that he thinks that Tori is Maria's sister. Because one of the... Oh, what the hell? Temporarily lost audio in one of my headphones. Ah! Oh, I figured out why. Okay, we're good. I need to move my chat box because my cat is laying in front of it. Let's see. Ultra Beast says, it is true. The reason AI struggles with animation is because it follows an infinite number of ways to do something, so it stutters trying to do it all across all the frames. Yep. Because here's the thing, right? It needs, for consistency, it needs more sourcing material. So for consistency in movement, it's gonna lose art style because it needs to pull from multiple hand angles. Even the newest one that just came out, posted by the White House, Studio Ghibli AI, the hand is still messed up. Hands are complicated and weird and different between humans, and it's also an acting aspect. Even when an AI masters every bone on the finger, it might not even move naturally. Feeling like a natural movement, the reason that like old Disney movies could do that is a combination of rotoscoping, but also because it's lived human experience. They can look at their own arm and be like, oh yeah, that's the way it works. Okay. It's so gross. Yeah, no. But you know what? I'm glad that AI is becoming the visual of that. Can't say I'm surprised at all. At all. And rotoscoping, again, I think rotoscoping works best when it's copying subtle things. I don't like it when scoped actions are used for exaggerated movements. Like, for example, you know the scene in Sonic X when Tails is walking up to... No, Sonic is walking up to Tails with the seed of Cosmo at the very end. That, I'm gonna use the idea of motion capture because it's similar to rotoscoping, but I think because we have the recent example of Shadow Generations, I want to use motion capture. So that scene where Tails breaks down into crying and Sonic has to like say, "This is all I found," and Tails is like holding it in his hand. Those are all smaller movements, and nobody makes like fast, quick movements. I think motion capture and rotoscoping, if they were doing it for Sonic X for some reason, that's when it's really good. But and Avatar fans are gonna get at me, and this is Sam and I talked about this. I actually don't like the fight scenes from Avatar as much, because I'm coming at it from a fan of like the opening of Sonic CD, obviously, but also Dragon Ball, where it's heightened reality, and it's exaggerated movements, which calls for exaggerated posing and otherworldly stylized composition, and that's what makes it like a spectacle, because it's not what you've already seen. In my opinion, Avatar is at its best when it's leaning into like the expressive kind of anime-like expressions, and it does really well those smaller emotional interactions. But because it still leans on the rotoscoping for the action sequences, it's not that the action sequences are bad. I don't think they're bad. I just think that their appeal is the same as a live-action series. So I can get joy out of the fight sequences in Avatar, but the joy isn't any different or unique than it would be watching like the Marvel films, like just seeing their superpowers, like them using their superpowers and moving in a realistic ways. Like it feels like a person fighting, and that's fine, but not what I want. When I attach myself to things like Sonic and Dragon Ball, you can tell I like those really exaggerated, stylized poses, right? Dragon Ball faces don't even make sense in 3D. And half the time, their like poses are like broken. Like I'm pretty sure all the Dragon Ball characters stand like... Oh wait, I can literally show you. Check this out. I literally have a figurine with the exaggerated standing. Ugh. Just sitting here. Luckily, it's like I was ready for this. It was all planned. What about the final fight? I like the fights. It's a good fight. And obviously, yeah, like him unlocking, what is it, Avatar state, and he's going like crazy ham and like flying around and like, but again, the composition and the movement is no different than like the Marvel films. So the appeal is having otherworldly abilities and superpowers, but because you don't have that exaggerated posing or like larger scaled hands or like forced perspective, right? It's not, for example, it wasn't a manga. It wasn't a manga, so those keyframes are not the priority. Dragon Ball has the benefit of being a comic first, so they're sitting here going, I need striking poses, like striking keyframes that lock in the movement, and it just makes everything snappier, even when it's animated, because it's literally click, 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 and then the animators animating a manga add flow to that, which makes everything hit harder because it didn't have those movements in between before as, honestly, a crutch. Rotoscoping is a little bit of a crutch. You get flowier movement, but less bam, 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 like the impacts just don't hit as hard. Even if you add impact frames, like Dark Beginnings, I talked a lot about that in another video, so I won't go too much into it, but Dark Beginnings is right in between, where obviously it's not using rotoscoping or motion capture, but because it's a 3D models, it's a similar situation where they do try to upscale the hands in some areas to give it that 2D animated look, but again, they're missing out on the other tiny little things that artists do when they're adding expressiveness. Like they'll make sharper edges on the hands when they draw it, when it needs to be really aggressive, or thicker outlines or scribbly outlines to show the motion. Like so many different things. That applies design wide, expressions, everything. It's too much. Lack of weight. Lack of weight. That's a great way of putting it, Ultra Beast. It does not feel like it has weight behind it. And there's a lot of really good effects, right? Because Avatar is about like water, earth, fire. So I think the love of those fights comes from how beautiful. I should read the Avatar comic. Again, I would not be surprised if, because it's a comic, it does better. But again, Sonic, I think we're on the same page, because I'm literally just talking about the technicalities of when you use rotoscoping, that's the result. And if the intent of the series is a lower priority on fights, which obviously, like if we're talking, what is more important? Like, which series prioritizes fighting more? Avatar or Dragon Ball? It's pretty obvious which one. So this is not like a stab at Avatar. The intent lines up. I'm just saying, okay, this is important context. It came up between Sam and I because Lords and Sam roast Dragon Ball in a very similar way, because the story's like logic is less of a priority. Way less of a priority. It's more of a spectacle, and it's setting up an a lightly interesting premise to have a fight happen. And it's more about character designs and composition and like zany, like Avatar's not a fair comparison. It's just a completely different intent. It would be an unfair comparison if I was framing it that way. Does that make sense? Calibor 31, but because I'm saying I'm using it to make the very point that they're different things. So I think we also agree, Calibor 31. Like, it wouldn't be a fair comparison if I was holding it to the same standards and saying for some reason that Avatar needs to be prioritizing fighting because I want that. Because what I would actually say is, oh, well, actually, no, this is what I literally said. In response to kind of Lords and Sam being like, Avatar is just linearly better. Like, because that's what they were saying. And the point I was making is you guys prioritize different things. So Avatar as a piece of media succeeds where Dragon Ball fails for you guys. And the reason I even brought up rotoscoping to Sam and Lords was because I was explaining the priority aspect. I was going, hey guys, I can technically I would never roast it, but they were roasting Dragon Ball and I felt like it was unfair because I'm like, it's just about priorities. Like, Avatar has a flaw if you're going to frame it that way. But like, that's not a flaw. It's not fair. So I didn't really start the kind of teasing. It's just kind of like me responding to it. But I have this habit of, okay, I brought this thing out for a reason, right? So yeah, the exaggerated posing. No one stands like that. Look at his back, like concaves in. No one stands like that. And like the forehead is giant. Like when you're drawing the eyes would be like way higher up. Like this is like crazy. Easy for me to say. Look at that, like my big ass forehead. But even my eyes are higher than Goku's. Goku's forehead is twice the size of mine. My eyes would have to be down here, guys, for me to be a Dragon Ball character. That's a big ass forehead. Let me see. I'm not wrong, bro. I'm not wrong. It's literally like where my cheekbones start. That's where the Dragon Ball eyes begin. The eyebrows are right here. So like, not realistic. We know this. And the facial positioning is more realistic in the Avatar faces. That's fine. That's fine. But at the end, the Dragon Ball face is iconic. Avatar's style is less iconic. Like, iconic is a sensitive word. It's less about the art style, though. It's more about the story and the world that they're bringing you into, right? It's like, oh my God, there's these different tribes that master different elements. How do you master these elements? What does this do to the world, right? They immediately tell you what the priority of the story is at the beginning of every freaking episode. It's about the world and the history that the world has had. Yeah, we haven't talked about Sonic in a while. Arrowblaze YouTube says, feels like the fun and DBZ fights stand in the movement. The watcher connects in their brain between frames and panels, works in their own imagination. Avatar is more in-your-face kind of deal, different. I I mean, if you're reading the manga, connects in their brain between frames and panels. It's using your imagination because it's heightened reality, right? Avatar is taking a more grounded approach to combat. And like literally Sam would use that as why it's good. So it's just different expectations and what you want from a fight, right? Because Sam was going like, they actually got martial artists to do the movements. And then they drew over it. And I was like, Sam, the Dragon Ball artists watch martial artists and draw. They're just not, the only difference is they're not drawing right over top of them. That's literally it. And it's like, it's no shit. If you do the movement differently, the movement is going to be different. So, I mean, this is where my media knowledge just leads me to be like an angry old person, I think, because it makes it hard for me to just take my friends joking around with Dragon Ball. And it makes me come across like I'm taking it way too seriously. Meanwhile, they're just like, yeah, the stories make no sense in Dragon Ball. It's like, yeah, but like, it's hard for me to not like say anything. I'm like, ugh. But like, because I know that like I will always have a special place in my heart for Dragon Ball, and I will always be watching another animated series and be like, this is good, but it's not Dragon Ball. And I think that's worth mentioning. We got to give credit due. We got to give credit where it's due. What should we play? Let's play another. What should we play in the background here? Dark Beginnings, probably. Full animation. 14 minutes. Perfect. Yeah, that'll give us some movement in the background. Sonic, I really like One Piece. Here's the thing about One Piece, though, Sonic. So it has the combat I like. I like Dragon Ball for character designs way better. It's weird. Luffy... Season 1 designs are the best, obviously. Luffy's design just goes so hard. And I think everyone else just doesn't really look that good. I'm sorry, I don't know what else to say. I've watched quite a bit of it too, and like, it feels intentional that the character designs are zany and it makes it distinct. It's just not for me. Like the fact that there's only one character that I'm like, that it looks so cool, and it's Luffy when he's like pissed and he's got the hat on his like back. Like, I don't know, man. Like he's just ready to kick some ass, and it's like I feel it. But even the other characters that are clearly being shown to me, this character is threatening. I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Like, for example, Toriyama did that once with Majin Buu. I feel like Oda treated so many characters like that with the same mentality that Toriyama had for Buu, where he's like, oh, this one's going to be really surprising. This other one's going to be really surprising. This one also will be very surprising. They'll never expect this one. Like, and I think he just loved that idea. And for me, it just means that it just feels so random. I don't know. And Naruto, I think, is the opposite problem, Halo. A lot of them just kind of look... You know what? Naruto is similar and you know what? They do more rotoscoping too. They're more about... I think Naruto and Avatar are kind of similar. But Naruto has more focus on those keyframes. I mean, it is a manga. But Naruto is better in the cool characters department. Yes. Like, I just think they try a little too hard, right? If there was a gradient, right? Obviously, in the zany side would be One Piece. Dragon Ball's in the middle. And then Naruto, for me, is a little too rigid. A little too everyone's kind of super cool looking. But again, that's just personal tastes, right? Is Dark Beginnings actually playing? Okay. Calabar says you have Dark Beginnings in the background. PlayStation is the only one with that content which ties Sonic Unleashed together with the rest of Generations. Huh? Wait, is it like a deleted scene? I know that PlayStation is the only one that has the deleted scenes. Is that what you're talking about, Calabar? No spoilers for Daima, even though everyone in the universe has seen it except for Sam, the literal procrastinator on everything. His name is so fitting. I don't... he keeps saying to me he hasn't been spoiled on Daima, but like... How the fuck? Ha, come on. Be real. Be real with me. How do you not... Goku can't just do what he does without you being spoiled. You can't just do... No. No fucking way. Deleted scenes in an animatic. So wait, show me how it... explain to me how it explains its connection to Unleashed? I don't think I saw that. Sounds like I need to watch something. That is what One Piece is about, being random and linking it. You know what? You are right. What is it? It's like, it's the theme of... It was a while when I watched it. It was like... He kept asking people to be on his crew. Luffy was interesting. I'm very fixated on what you said, Ice Sonic, because you're talking about what One Piece is about, and that's, you know, that's the stuff that I'm looking for, and especially since you're talking about the random character designs, quoting me, right? And if we can link it to intent, that's gonna make me appreciate it more. It definitely will. It's like, but where did that, because that seems more like Sonic, being random and liking it. Also, I love the character interactions with the Straw Hats. The character interactions are really strong. But again, it feels very much similar to Sonic X, where a lot of the supporting cast in One Piece is there to make the main character look really, really, really cool. It's kind of like early Dragon Ball. It felt very much like Goku kind of took priority, and it was all Goku, and the supporting cast just made Goku look cooler, which they are beloved characters. But it wasn't until Dragon Ball Z, or end of Dragon Ball, where you started getting characters that like were competing in the cool, I guess. You guys know what I'm talking about? Like, it feels very much like Luffy is like just really, really cool design wise. We're not even talking characterization. Like, it's just like, because, and you know what, I would say the same thing about Sanji, but he just ruins it by being disgustingly thirsty. But he also, yeah, I probably would say the same thing. And then I guess Zoro is cool too. It's Zoro and Luffy. But Zoro's like, and Luffy looks way cooler than Zoro. Zoro needs more drip. Zoro's behavior is cool. But I feel like whenever I look at Zoro, I'm like, this would be so cool if he was Knuckles. If this was just Knuckles, I would love it if this was Knuckles. Specifically Knuckles and Sonic. I just like the idea. It feels, Luffy and Zoro feel a little bit, especially at the beginning, a lot like Sonic and Knuckles, so. Yeah, it's like Sanji. It's like, I think that's what it was, right? I think I started, because you meet Zoro first, and like the art was so good in season 1, Fast the Sonic, right? Like, I'm like, I really like this. Like, these two characters are really, really cool. Like, I don't love Zoro's design that much, but it's whatever. Like, it'll grow on me, whatever, it's fine. And then you meet Sanji, like you said, right? And it's like, oh, damn. Like, I really like Sanji. Like, the whole, like, feeding the desperately hungry, no matter who, even if, like, they're a threat to you, like, so good. And then just immediately just shits all over that idea by just making him, like, the Master Roshi. And I'm sorry, but at least Master Roshi is one character. He shows up, you know when his antics are starting, you just skip that shit. You just you skip forward. You're like, all right, I'm done with this. Like, but with Sanji, he'll be saying some like good stuff. You're like, damn, all right, yeah. Or he'll have like a cool scene. You're like, yeah. And then just snaps into like degenerate, and you're like, oh, God. So I don't know. That it damaged One Piece a lot for me, but Luffy is so cool. Like I drew Luffy right after watching a lot of the episodes. Like one of those character designs that's just so good you need to draw him. Like Oda cooked. We did not find a lot of Sonic hot takes. I will say I found it increasingly more difficult to find hot takes since I left Twitter. But I think that's less to do with actually finding interesting conversations and more finding outrage that is actually not there. Calibor is bringing us back to Sonic, which is I'm very thankful for. Sonic Rivals 1 and 2 continues after Sonic Battle, which has lore of Emerald that we see tie together in the Dark Beginnings. PlayStation exclusive content are being added to Sega. So in that deleted scene, is there mentions of Rivals 1 and 2? Wait, what? I need to see this. I did not see this. But also, are deleted scenes necessarily canon? Like they were deleted? Fastest Sonic's got a hot take for us. Here's my hot take. Tori being Maria's sister would make the world feel smaller, and it would be extremely lame in my hot opinion. Oh, okay. Huh. I think I want to press the button. I think you did it. I think you did it, Fastest Sonic. This is interesting. Never tried this before. All right, we're gonna jump into it. We're gonna try to do it. But I'm at the end of Dark Beginnings. I'll probably just start it again, so I've got something in the background. Actually, chat, what should I put in the B-roll for this? So we're gonna use Fastest Sonic's hot take. Tori being Maria's sister would be lame. I'm gonna talk to your nuance. But I'm thinking of like almost like a title for the video I would post to that, so it's more concise. Obviously, we would elaborate in the video itself, but Tori being Maria's sister would be lame. A lot of people are talking about that. Tails Tube would be appropriate. Yeah, I guess so. But what would be cool? There's not a lot of movement in Tails Tube, guys. Less what is relevant and more what is cool. Maybe I should just do Dark Beginnings. We're talking about Maria and stuff. Repart. Okay, I think we're gonna do this. You're right though, Tails Tube would be appropriate, but we're looking for something a little bit more visually appealing. Got my cat pawing my screen, so I can't see the chat. All right. All right, so I'm not gonna start recording on OBS, or maybe I should. It would be easier. Yeah, let's try that. I'm not playing any game. It won't be labor intensive. Okay, you're about to see me record a YouTube video live. You guys ready? Hey everybody, welcome back to these 5-minute discussions. We just got a suggestion on live from Fast the Sonic. Fast the Sonic said in full, this is the full take. Tori being Maria's sister would make the world feel smaller, and it would be extremely lame in my hot opinion. Whatever hot opinion means, Fastest Sonic can let us know in the comment section below. But I'm basically gonna speak to that. I think it's a wonderful hot take. And yeah, I think we're good to go. So this is my first take. Let's see if we nail it first try, chat. Here we go. 3, 2, oh wait, no, it might do the countdown. 3, 2, 1, no, go. Okay, so will it be lame if they are related? So Fast the Sonic starts us off by saying that it would be lame and it would make the world feel smaller. And I think I want to focus on that to make it feel like we're really doing Fast the Sonic's comment justice. So the world feeling smaller just because this character is related to somebody in the story that has existed so far. I can see how you would think that it would make it feel smaller, but that depends largely on the other humans that are introduced in the story that's going to be told as we move forward. It sounds a little bit more like it's jumping the gun. Like it could be framed that way in the story that we get. If they, and I think the reason that leads you to saying that is because we know that the Maria is such a popular character. It's connected to Shadow, also the second most popular, arguably the most popular character in the entire series. So it's reasonable to assume that that would take a very big priority in the story. So it would be distracting from seeing a wider array of humans and all of their thoughts and all of their stories, which could shrink the world. So I think this is worth talking about, which is why I'm even doing this video to begin with, because we want to get in front of something like this. We want Tori's story to feel like it matters. And I think that would be why the writers choose to incorporate Tori into the Robotnik family, because it would add more of an interesting angle to the stories that they've been building on from Frontiers, Shadow Generations, and then moving forward. I think that's why people are making that connection, because it's only natural for writers to want to build on the things that they've established already, especially in the context of Sonic, where they are grappling with and struggling with the fact that they have to kind of build on stories written by many different writers with different skill sets, different cultural backgrounds. So they're going to more often than not lean on the writing that they've done recently to make it feel consistent. That's why Frontiers is always going to feel a little forced, because it's a different writer. It's a different writer, and it's trying their best to be authentic to previous interpretations of the Sonic world, but it's always going to feel weird. And that's why the purist Sonic fans are, getting rubbed the wrong way, because they're seeing that change, and it causes fear. Change causes fear. It's different. It's new. But in order for that to go away, the only path forward is to just kind of have it diminish, right? They have to lean into their own skill set. So I do think it's most likely that they are going to be building on the Robotnik lore. But I'm so glad that Fast the Sonic brought up this concern, because if it takes too much priority and it doesn't actually have an impact on the greater Sonic world and other humans, right? And if we don't explore other humans' perspective on the Robotnik family, then it becomes a very self-contained, boring story that feels too similar to Shadow Generations and Frontiers, where it's too focused on, it's playing safe, right? It's too scared to venture out and explore new answers. It's just building on pre-existing lore over and over again. I feel like it would give the same feeling that Frontiers just constantly referring to past Sonic games gave. The same kind of feeling. And you know what? It actually fits right in with what I said about boost gameplay. I love it when I can plug my other videos. So boost gameplay, I just kind of sometimes say that there's boost gameplay fatigue. And it's just because there's less depth. This is a similar situation, right? Obviously, if there's more options for directions to go in a 3D Sonic game, you're going to be able to play it more times to get a new experience. Duh. Same is true with this story, right? If they over-focus on the Robotnik family, especially because we just explored it, it's going to feel less special. The only way the writers can leverage this in a kind of two birds with one stone situation is if they plug into and use their existing writing as a platform to generate curiosity and explore new concepts in the Sonic world, so that we're asking new questions for the game after it. I'm pretty confident that will happen, because that is the situation we're in right now, where Shadow Generations and Sonic Frontiers made us ask questions about this girl, and we're making connections, and there are pieces to play with to make those connections. And I'm pretty confident that the writers know how to put those pieces out for us to continuously do this. So let's hope they balance it. We did it. Okay, and the question I want to ask you guys is, what level of your faith in the lore team, what level is it at right now? Out of 1 out of 10. I think that's the best way we can go about it. And then explain it too. But explain why you don't have a lot of faith that they're going to be able to take this on, right? And balance the kind of existing knowledge and lore that they've established in the previous games versus giving us something new and exciting that will draw in a new audience, which is always a priority of every game, but also pique the curiosity of existing Sonic fans. Do you trust them and their ability to do that? And what do you think it's going to be? If you want to know what I thought, I actually spoke a lot about that on the stream that I'm recording this from. So if you want to check that out, go check out Sonic Hot Takes number 3 on Tails channel. And if you're interested in this video form that I just did, of course, you'll always be able to check it out on the Mardiculous channel. 5-minute discussions all the time. See you next time, and peace. Okay, I didn't say goodbye to you guys, but that was pretty good. What did you guys think? What did you guys think of that? Maybe I can restart. It's number 3, I think, cause Dakiii wrote 4 by mistake, but I'm almost positive it's number 3. No, Caliber, I'm not going. Don't leave. I'm still here. I'm just gone in the video. Wait, when did this come undone? I mean, it's keeping me cool, so whatever. You're back on Tails channel? I am, but I'm a co-host. Long story short, I always wanted to eventually transition into the co-host because my job, obviously, the intent is to climb the ladder, right? I need to make money. I gotta eat somehow in this economy. So the general idea is that I still want to be involved, but I was never, even when I started Tails channel, I never had the bandwidth to run a channel enough in the way that I wanted to. So this is no different than the circumstances that happened in the past. It's just that Dakiii is now that person that I work with, where it used to be Ryan. So yeah, there was a little bit of creative differences. I did a whole video on Tails channel about why I left Tails channel, and now I'm back to execute the original kind of soft transition out plan. Yeah, it's because I was recording a video for my personal channel. I got this whole, I made a compromise, right? Because on my personal channel, I was doing these 5-minute discussions where I slap the button and do a 5-minute hot take topic really quickly. That's basically what you came in on at the end there. And then we're gonna post the shorter, concise ones where I try to focus all my thoughts into that time frame on my personal channel. But I also got a lot of feedback like, oh, I feel like it's kind of limiting. You know what I mean? Or it stresses me out or whatever. The stressing out one is kind of like, just watch a different video. But for the people who are just genuinely like, I want to hear more thoughts, like, that justifies this. So, I mean, I feel like there's a place for both. And I also, if you've been following me for a really long time, every live stream I did, I tried to do the standard thing where you're playing a game. And I even did that on my personal channel, I think this past week. I think it was Monday. And again, my gameplay just suffers because I want to talk to you guys. So Sonic Hot Takes Hunt is this series where I can collect the topics for this. Sometimes we don't find them. We've been here for how many hours? 2 hours and a half or something, and we only found one. But I think it's a really good practice, though. This is one of those ideas where I thought it was a good idea when I started, and I was like, whatever, but I'm discovering more and more reasons why I like this the more I do it. Like right now, the idea of going, what is a good topic to talk about that is substantial enough to talk about for 5 minutes? It just starts the practice of identifying, is it worth really kind of going into that, or is that just kind of like a this or that kind of thing? Because before, especially when I was on Twitter, it just felt like every Sonic take, my brain was categorizing it as, oh, there's another Sonic take. I wonder if people are going to argue about that. And my brain was saying, like, people argue about anything. Like, so, like, who knows when the next discourse is going to happen. But now my perspective is very different. It's like, no, you know what? I kind of know what causes people to get set off. You know, like, it kind of makes sense. I don't know. I'm not as confused. The Cobalt Effect. What a great name. I recently rewatched JebTube's review of Frontier's story, and one of his takeaways that I agree with is the current writing team seems too focused on setting up how cool the characters could be. I think you're absolutely right, and we did talk about that a little bit earlier in the stream, Cobalt Effect. In fact, I just recorded a 5-minute discussion that I'll post on my personal, and I think we covered that a little bit. I think you might have just missed it. But I do feel that way about Frontiers. It felt very much like they were setting up for what we're about to experience. I think right now it's a little premature to make fun of Ian for being like super referential, because I think there's not enough games for it to be like Ian's deliberate creative choice. Right now it's like it's more likely that it's corporate trying to make a statement to the fans about the brand, kind of imposed on Ian rather than like an intentional creative decision. But if the next story is just kind of like all self-referential, then it's like, ooh. Okay, Evan, you would have hated the recent Sonic Isn't Cocky discourse. We should do that. I heard about that. Sonic isn't cocky. So I heard about it, but I heard about people making videos about it because of Twitter. But it's so easy to talk about. Do I need a 5-minute? I need like, see, here's the thing. YouTube makes me want to press this button for every topic, guys. I originally thought that this premise of 5-minute discussions, it would mean that like, oh, I don't have to edit, so there's like far less time. But I learned something as well, right? Originally, it was like, oh, if the game is I'm trying to be as concise as possible, then my brain is the editor, and that's the game. As I try to struggle to make my thoughts concise. But then, wait, darn it. I think I was about to make the same point that Sonic isn't cocky. How does this have to do with it? Oh, I remember. It means I realized that I was determining the value of my content too heavily on the editing and production and trimming out the mistakes. And I realized once I had the timer and the game was about being concise and filling that time with something I was okay with, and the audience was expecting something that was uncut, right? Like it was built into the expectation. It meant that all of a sudden, I actually spent no more time planning my videos than when I edited them. It's just now I was able to spend more time thinking about the topic being actually interesting because it brought it to the forefront, right? I couldn't hide behind funny, quirky meme edits anymore because all I had was the uncut 5 minutes of talking about it. So if I wasn't interested in the topic and I was just talking about it because it was the trend, it would be written all over my face. So I immediately realized, I'm like, this is the type of content I want to do, because I'm so tired of this, like, trying to decipher if the content creator I'm watching actually cares. Or like, do you know what I mean? Like, I'm here to meet people. I'm not here to just like absorb opinions. That Sonic isn't cocky is a bit weird. I want to try. I think I gotta speak to it. It was apparently a big one. Let me gather some of your guys' takes on it first. Maybe it's already over. But they do all the cheap references in IDW anyway. Oh, you know what, Cobalt? You're kind of right. They gotta lay off of that stuff. Yeah, it does kind of feel like... That's kind of why I think the criticism is a little bit called for, if I'm being honest. Oh, we got Trip doing the thing I was talking about earlier, like protecting, I think it's like a little flower. Yeah, Trip is definitely like supposed to be a representation of like what Chaos could have been if he didn't manifest the anger and rage. Trip's super form, I mean. It's no coincidence that it's like a big dragon and there's an evil dragon as well, and like, come on. Actually, now that I think about it, I think more Black Arms types don't have legs than do. Black Bull, the Hawks, the Barnacles. Isn't Ian not working on the comics anymore? I'm pretty sure Ian is still involved in the comics to a degree. The classics don't speak with rare exception, and one can of personality, but they are coherent, and oh, one can't really hate one compared to the modern. I feel like references aren't the issue itself, just how they're handled. Jay Solaris, I think when you say that, you mean like, obviously, we don't want them to avoid mentioning something just on the basis that it was mentioned before. Like, oh no, let's not go to Green Hill because fans don't like it. Like, if going to Green Hill makes sense, then that's what we'll do. I just can't think of very many reasons why they'd have to go back again just because they keep going there. But if it made sense, then it makes sense. We brought that up a little bit earlier too, right? Where sometimes they write their limitations of the game budget or technology into the story in the same way that in Frontiers, they made the story about a barren and lifeless world. But I do truly think that that was also a limitation concern. They were like, we can't really fill it that much. We can kind of fill it, but it'll feel less empty if it's part of the story. Ian has been back for a while now and is doing the IDW crossover where he already directly copied dialogue. Jeremiah says that IDW crossover for yeah, he is doing the IDW crossover with Justice League or DC. What's the you know what, you're right. Why is he doing that? Because, like, the reason I ask why is he doing that is because I genuinely believe that Ian is capable of, like, writing Sonic in a way that sounds like Sonic. But, like, when he throws in those references in there, it's like, who is that for? We're done. I think Sonic fans are done with the insecurity. I think that's what it is. I think that's why those references bother us so much. Like, I think that's also why, like, we are so back, you know, fans just started really gravitating towards that, you know, around the Frontiers era or like peak. We're manifesting reality. Frontiers is flawed. I know not everyone thinks it's peak or whatever. We are so back. I even made a video going, Sonic's not back. He's evolving again. Made that same statement on this channel. But it makes sense that fans are desperate to be over this stage where Sonic needs to be insecure. Oh, I don't know if people know me. I gotta remind them of the game. Remember the game you liked? Remember the show of me you liked? Remember the thing you liked? Remember? We're done. We're done. You got a movie. 3. They succeeded. Come on. Hello? Just be Sonic. Just be Sonic. No, but Halo, they're gonna be curious no matter what. He could be doing this for newer fans to get curious about the old things, although I say, but these people are very few. But they integrate the references seamlessly into the dialogue, so only older fans, Halo, would notice them. And, like, I genuinely think it's from a place of insecurity because those references have to be for fans, not for new fans. But the reason we're seeing the hate kind of slowly increase is because, again, it's fatigue. We're done. Context matters. This is why I feel like art class should be tied with, like, media. It should be media class. Because, again, being aware of the current events and news in Sonic is important for the artist Ian Flynn to write his story. Because if he doesn't know that those references are pissing people off because the context is that we feel like we're back, like a lot of people are saying that, even if I don't agree, you got to be paying attention to what's happening. Like, just let Sonic be Sonic. Like, it's very clear that that what's happening right now is even fans of Ian want Ian to stop doing those references because they want to be able to make arguments that he doesn't do that, because it's objectively a crutch. You're not a good writer if you're referring to someone else's writing over and over again. You're apologizing for yourself. Sorry, I'm not someone else. Remember the games you liked? Sorry, I'm the comic book. Sorry, I'm not SA2. Sorry, I'm not something else. And that hits nicely when you're really mad. When you're really mad at Sonic and you're coming out of Sonic Forces, them going, I'm sorry, I'm not Sonic Adventure 2. That's like, okay, you know what? Thanks. Thanks for apologizing. But now it's like, okay, stop being down on yourself. Like, wake up. Let's go. Jeremiah says, Ian Flynn is not the fan people claim he is. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Let's see. It's a hot take. He was a fan of SatAM and Archie, but not the real Sonic. He's demonstrated lack of basic knowledge many times. Well, so just because, okay, so I am not a fan of the SatAM approach either. I gotta start with that, okay? However, I feel like it's worth saying that just because you're a fan of SatAM doesn't mean you're not a fan of the real Sonic. I know this is a can of worms. It's an over-westernized Sonic, but it's no more guilty than the movies or Prime. And it brought in a lot of fans. This is why we have to start talking about intent. This is where people stereotype artists talking about intent as like, oh, my feelings, my self-expression. No, it's how we filter out these discussions, okay? Intent is how we figure out what it is about SatAM that draws people to it, and what is the connection between that and the games that keep them invested. Right? Because there are still tons of SatAM fans that love playing the games. A lot of SatAM fans actually took advantage of the fact that took advantage might not be the right way of saying it, but took advantage of the fact that there's a lot of empty blanks, spaces between the lines, as Kishimoto said. There's a lot of space between the lines in Eastern writing. And SatAM found a perfect space between those lines because SatAM talked more about the origins of a world. Because Western stories feel the need to do that more often. Because art in general is more apologetic of itself. Because it's just overall less of a... It's less connected to like spirituality, to be honest. It's like a different... It's plugged in culture completely differently. So it's overall held to a different regard with less prestige. And so it's self-apologetic behavior, right? The extra exposition is what we are used to in Western culture because of how we perceive art as a whole. SatAM explains that, makes it perfectly palatable for people who are used to Western media, and combines perfectly, not perfectly, but pretty well with those spaces that the games leave, so you can actually be both. So plugging it through intent, Ian can still be the writer. Like, I think he can still do a good job, even if that's true, that he's more of a fan of SatAM. It's about how he responds to that feedback. I got some good questions in here, but I gotta... And Shadow Generations is a follow-up of what Frontiers was doing, but Shadow's history. Absolutely. I feel like with Frontiers, the reason why the game is referenceful is because we went through an era where everything Sonic in and out of fandom were made fun of. So Frontiers wanted to be proud instead. No, and I get that. Absolutely. But I think the way the way you're describing it is a little bit more confusing. I think it's a little bit more clear or more consistent with the other ways I'm talking about pieces of media. At least I'm biased about my own perspective. But it's working for the logic of existing topics in this conversation. But I do think that in the context of when Frontiers came out, it made sense because of what you're saying, right? We were in an era, we went through an era right before that where everything Sonic was making fun of itself. So Frontiers wanted to be proud. I think it's less that it wanted to be proud and more that it's apologizing that it is, because like it or not, Frontiers is one of those games in the self-referential era, because when the game is released, the era is not determined yet, right? We have defined the Renaissance era of Sonic because Frontiers was successful. The era is defined by the game. So if the reason I explain it far too Sega for you, the reason I explain it as it's apologizing for itself is from that point of view. Is when it releases, it is wanting to be proud of its history. It is, but it's also apologizing for not being those things by talking about how great they were. And I think apologizing for itself is a good vocabulary, because I think the common thread between what we all want, obviously, is for Sonic to be authentically himself and good. And we all want original, what am I watching? We all want original content, original worlds, original dialogue. Obviously, we want new. We want new. What the hell is this? Gotta play something on here. One of the animated things. Oh, I bet you they have playlists of animations. Animations. Oh, Team Sonic Overdrive. I like that. Great. Overdrive was nice. It was the first time we saw modern characters animated in this style. Too bad they were sitting in cars. Okay. All right. Let's see what's going on with the Ian Flynn discussion. Okay, no, actually, I really wanted to answer. No, there's so many. Oh, you guys, this discussion is going so well now. Jeez. I feel like I just have to stay for like multiple hours before we really get into the heat of it. Whatever. Okay, Jay Solora says, people campaigned Flynn for Sonic for a reason. So people need to see that. We do. I want to see him like really take the helm and do an original story that isn't apologizing for itself. Like let him cook. There is something people liked about his writing and Archie that they thought would be appropriate for the games. I absolutely agree. Just give him that chance. I mean, here's the thing. Even if you don't like Ian, if you let Ian be Ian in the writing, we're gonna know that it's Ian. This is why I don't understand. Like, corporate meddling works against their own interests, right? The more that moneybags kind of go like, do this, do that, they won't be able to make a guided choice on what to do next because the creative process was so tampered with. How are they going to create an equation for success moving forward? If everything was just kind of like, do this, do that, investors are saying this, do that, investors will say this tomorrow, oh God, panic. Like, it sounds like anxious anxiety mess. The only way for consistent success is taking faith in a creative goal and mind or person, letting them do it with as little limitations as you can allow, right? There's obviously logistics. There's a reason that there's a management team, and they exist for a reason. But if you can prevent as many obstacles getting in their way from creating the story they need to tell, or kind of compromises to their intent, I should say, because you build around limitations, but that's like the technology and your current time. But as long as you have the timeline set by your managers, when it's got to release, and the resources, schedules, staff. But then when you start taking things away, it starts to distort, and then it's going to also distort your statistics on how to move forward if it fails or succeeds. So if you succeed and you meddled with a bunch of stuff, you're going to be like, shit, I have to meddle again. And you're also going to have this false sense of security, like, it wasn't Ian, it was us. We figured out like 50% of it. So like if we got like someone else for like the little bits of the story that Ian handled, you know, we probably could do it. But alternatively, if you 100% let Ian handle that, if he screws it up, you're like, oh, let's definitely get rid of this guy. Or if you succeed, oh yeah, definitely, let's keep this guy, and now we'll just focus on something else we're unsure about. You gotta take risks. High risk, high reward. Like, don't be a coward. Again, it's all fitting, right? Don't apologize for yourself. Don't be afraid of who you are. Go your own way. It ties into the theme of Sonic itself. It's no wonder I'm gonna prioritize this. Like, so many things. Man, there's so many good comments here. Jeez, how do I choose them? Okay, Halo. If we stick to your definition of Sonic not being back, but rather evolving, would you say Sonic being back would be Sonic being backward? If we stick to your definition of Sonic not being back, but evolving, would you say Sonic being back would be... Yes! Yes! Sonic being back doesn't make sense. Back to what? Back to what? Back to... That's not good. Sonic doesn't want to go back. Back to what? He wants to go somewhere new. It just doesn't fit. That's why that's also why I say the boost game fatigue. It's just not... Doesn't fit. For doing it for too long, eventually it's just not gonna work. Saddam was Americanized Sonic, but it was respectful of his identity in its own way. It was, but it did lean into... It's just as guilty as the movies and Prime for westernizing or Americanizing Sonic. And because there's precedent for it, because of Saddam and Archie and all that stuff, I think it's not really that big of a deal. I think people are used to Sonic having different interpretations and versions. But I do see the point in that it does distort discussion on Sonic characterization. I do think we need to start being like I think they just need to be firm, and like, that's why Prime was exciting, right? Like, yeah, put Sally in Prime. Make it a different world so we can see shark fin, you know, Jaleel White Sonic, and we go, okay, that is a different Sonic. Which thus means that the other one is different. I think like that's why Prime is so annoying, because it was right there, so close you could taste it. And Spider-Man's doing all that stuff, so you're thinking, oh, they're capitalizing on the same hype, and then you immediately go, oh, Sonic has the same situation where there's so many different interpretations. Why the again? You know what? That plugs into what we were talking about before, right? Just like how right now everybody's talking about how human Sonic characters and animal Sonic characters interact, and like, where do they live, and how does the world come together? Right? Where are the Gaia temples located in relation to Forces' map and stuff like that, right? The writers need to take what is the existing curiosity and build on it. Prime, it ignites curiosity and then just shoots you in the face and goes, no. I don't like... It's no wonder people got pissed off at Pirate Sonic, because it could have been something else. It felt honestly a lot like Forces going, why is Shadow the bad guy? Find out in Forces. Only for it to be a short, horribly animated scene of Shadow being like, that one's a fake. And Sonic's like, oh, what? With his mouth on the wrong side of his face. Come on, it doesn't sting any worse than that. Not only you couldn't be bothered to give any writing explanation on the off-screen dialogue thought bubbles. Like, you could have explained something in the middle of a level and just somebody going blah 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 like you did for half of the shit in the story, But no, we just get, that's a fake. And Shadow just kicks him, and it's over. They showed that at E3. They said that shit at E3 to everybody. They're like, why is Shadow a bad guy again, everybody? Like SA2, right, guys? Like SA2. Just to, like... Just to not? That's what Prime feels like. Multiverse! Find out what the multiverse is like! Oh, it's nothing what you're thinking, though. Not at all. At all. It should be a combination of expectations and some surprises. You could have had the pirate world. Just give us one alternate Sonic. So we can have the implication that like they could have done Sonic Boom. And I don't like Boom Sonic, but that would have the implication that SatAM Sonic exists. It would have been so easy. You have the Boom model already. They wouldn't do it though because they're terrified of Boom. They could have played it off as a joke. Come on. Like the new Sonic cartoon lightly referencing the last cartoon that failed. Come on, that's fine. Everybody knows about Boom. Don't pretend it doesn't exist. Use it. Leverage it as a joke. Prime was definitely not too good to tell a joke like that. Like, it was silly. See, now it's a matter of trying to find... You guys are talking with each other, which is really, really good. But it means it's hard for me to kind of figure out exactly what to answer. See if I can find one that's more directly targeted to me. Dredd was cool. I liked Dredd. But I think it's because Dredd's voice was different. They got like a different actor just to play Dredd. Is that... Oh. They had a different actor just to play Dredd. I guess the other Knuckles actor... Like, the other Knuckles actor played every other Knuckles except for the pirate one. So, like, they must have known. Like, they were like, yo, Dredd is awesome. Far too Sega for you said, oh, did you see Pariah explain that the plot of Forces is just Star Wars? That's why it was titled Sonic Wars in development. I mean, I did know that. I'm pretty sure the executable still says Sonic Wars, like, on it. When you boot it up for like a second. Or maybe that was like before they patched it or something. I do remember that though. And honestly, I thought Pariah stopped making Sonic videos. What happened? Like, you know how I feel about like clickbait and stuff because like, you know, and like videos that actually have like an interesting topic and a nuance. So I'm not gonna lie, that kind of rubbed me weird when I saw that he just seemingly, I didn't watch them after that, but seemingly just continued to make Sonic stuff. Like he's like, I am finally done talking about Sonic, never mind. It's like, huh? And I watched that video. He was like, yeah, you know, I'm ready to move on to talking about other games and media. And I was like, very good. Very good. Expand your horizons. You're going to be even better. If you choose to come back to Sonic, you're going to be even better. Because I will say he was very, very, very focused primarily on like Eastern Western. Stops and starts. Wait, so he makes a habit of it? But the thing for me is that he made a video. But he made a video saying that he was done. Wait, I liked Prime for what it was? I didn't say... I don't really like Prime. Prime was never going to be about alternate Sonics. They don't really like doing that. They don't really like doing that. But they did it with Classic Sonic. I don't know. It felt very much because Prime was doing a multiverse. Spider-Man was as well. Sonic capitalizes on trends. right? Like Sonic Colors, right? The comparisons to Mario Galaxy are fair. The power-ups, like, you know, it just happens. I think it's so not. I'm not specifically saying like I was like locked in on thinking that was going to happen. I'm saying it's totally fair for people to kind of expect them to do that. And then when you're judging it as a piece of media, you're like, okay, so the audience obviously had reason to expect that. So then why was the result not even close? That seems like a cut corner then, right? And then it seems like from the audience that we didn't get something that felt like we were promised. Again, when you make art, it's communication. You communicate things by when you announce it, like I said, and the art direction you use. It had a similar aesthetic to the multiverse stuff we've seen. That means something visually. Art is communication. They don't have to literally say it's gonna be multiple Sonics to be implying that. And I don't think it's fair to put the blame on the people who had expectations, because that's what art does. It communicates a thing. And if you get a reaction that is aligned with the style that you put in your art, that fits. It doesn't seem random. It's like, that expectation makes sense. That's what happens like when I'm in acting school or acting on a scene, right? The way that I get notes to improve the scene is like if I'm moving my hand like this in a scene where somebody's like telling me about their dead grandma, they're gonna be like, that's giving that you're like a child and you're not taking this seriously. Like you're fidgeting. Why is that a choice? And you're like, oh, right, yeah, I should probably be focused on what they're saying. That's a very extreme example, but that's because I couldn't think of like very, very tiny details. But more realistically, that would be what it's like, is like the director would be giving you a note like, okay, you're doing this with your foot. You don't probably notice it, but it's making you look way more open and too comfortable when this scene is supposed to make your character really uncomfortable. So your legs would actually be like kind of closer, protecting your body because you're more on guard, just psychologically. So it's only natural that like, no shit, like that applies to art and graphic design. Like it's all the same thing. In school for design, they do the same thing. They go, all right, that one iteration of the logo gives this feeling and your intent is this. So those don't match up. You need to switch this to match your intent or change your intent and then lean into it more. Like it's all the same thing. So Prime, I think that's a fair like thumbs down for Prime. Giving an implication, seemingly participating in a trend, and then being like, no, actually, no. No. He basically just doesn't want Sonic to be the focus of his channel. What? That's great. He's super known in the Sonic community, though. See, here's the thing. I think this is why it rubs me the wrong way. And because you know what? You just saw me. I got excited for him when he made that video titled like I'm done with Sonic. Because I was hoping, like I implied earlier, that he was going to really lean into other media aggressively so that he could prove that his media analysis can handle that transition. I think because I really liked his media analysis and I saw people really gravitating towards it. I'm like, oh, good. Like we need people like this. But again, it's giving a little bit of insecurity when I see like 2 or 3 right after that, like in a not very short or not a very long period of time. I'm like, was that clickbait? And now you're saying he does it a lot. And now you're saying he doesn't want Sonic to be the focus of his channel, which I respect, and I respect it. But now that makes me go, I don't know if this is the way to go about what your intention is. Fear can sometimes get in the way of you being clear about your intent and what you really want to do and what you want to really get. You get in your own way. I'm sure you've heard of that term before. So I guess I'm just getting the feeling that he's getting in his own way. Like he has to have the Like, I made the decision that I'm only gonna make Sonic stuff, but that's because I have a situation where I can explore other media in my real career. So it makes sense for me to go, oh, this is like where I get to do the Sonic thing, because I don't get to, but it's informed by something else, so it's a positive feedback loop. Him, it sounds like he already is gonna privately engage with Sonic. He loves Sonic. He's gonna continue to analyze it on his own time. But it sounded like he was gonna embark on a journey of expanding that horizon and really seeing how far he could go with it. Because then when he comes back to Sonic, it would be so interesting. If he kind of stays doing a little bit of both, it's not gonna feel like, it's not, the priority is less on self-improvement and more on just wanting to hang out with his community, which I can get. That can be a priority, just hanging out with the people that he's already collected and making those people satisfied and just continuing. Me, I'm like, I want to be the most concise communicator ever. Because I just love it when I feel like I meet someone at a convention, they tell something to me, and I go, I know exactly what you're talking about, and we could, I just, even if I don't agree, I just really like that experience. Like, me, right now, this is me practicing for when I meet you. Because I like meeting people. But I realized I like meeting Sonic fans. I mean, obviously, I'm not gonna like everybody I meet. But I like that uncertainty. Ooh, what's this person like? Oh, that was weird. Okay. And like seeing what happens. I'm not really blaming fan expectations. I just think it's more of a flawed concept from the start. They did classic Sonic thing, but that's presented as Sonic being from the past. Oh, yeah, Jeremiah, I think you're right. Like, they shouldn't have done the multiverse concept. They should have known what that expectation would have been and then just scrapped it because they weren't planning on delivering it. I still wouldn't like it because the writing is bad and the animation is cheap and goofy. I don't think the animation is cheap. Goofy I can see because it's very, very like floppy. We had our first Sonic Hot Takes discussion was actually about that on Sonic Movement. I just love the way it approaches 3D animation for Sonic. Obviously, my preference is what they did in the Knuckles prologue. I even prefer to the Knuckles prologue over Shadow Generation. That's Shadow Dark Beginnings. However, I love. Okay, the thing with Knuckles prologue and Dark Beginnings, though, there's a nuanced take for me here. When it comes to the linear result of Knuckles prologue, like literally the finished piece. Compared to Dark Beginnings, I like Knuckles Prologue better as a final piece. However, contextually, looking at it in order and as Sega's animation team develops, Knuckles Prologue happening before Dark Beginnings is very exciting for me because it shows them experimenting with visual styles, and that's why I felt the need to give it feedback, because it felt very much like a process. And it felt familiar to a process I'd seen in Dragon Ball with Dragon Ball Super Superhero. So I basically just applied, I was just like, it was, my overall opinion was very, basically like, yes, and this next time, like, and then you'll have probably a cost-effective, stylish way of animating Sonic. Because comparing these two animations, the first thing that's probably going to come to your mind is like Dark Beginnings is way longer. And you get that length because, you know, you're leaning more on 3D models. You don't have to draw the characters many times. But touching up some scenes that need more intensity, there's no reason you can't do that. They do that in 2D art anyway, so they'll still get the benefit of not having to draw the characters many times, but just a little bit more time spent on touch-ups. Yeah, I don't know why they can't just do a digital series, Jeremiah's, like a web series. I do think, well, it's not that I don't know why. Man, I used to not know why, Jeremiah's, but now I do know why. It's because they literally have pre-existing relationships with animation studios, right? Like, you have to remember that these different production companies and media companies, they interact. So like, they have higher level people going like, oh, we really want to do this in the future. Maybe we'll talk in the future. Maybe, like, there are just traditions. There are practices that just happen in the industry. And so I think it's just one of those courtesy things, right? Like, while they could do a web series, because it's not traditionally what these larger video game companies do, they're opting for television shows or whatever the norm is, like streaming shows, so Netflix. That's what they want because that's the industry norm, and again, that's a safer choice. That's basically it. Like, but it's also pre-existing relationships. It means they get more leverage in future relationships with cartoons, right? So even if they did find like this really great web series producer, a lot of them are like smaller teams or self-funded or indie, and you would probably get like really high quality stuff, but I think it's less controlled on Sega's end, so it's more risky. They would be, it's like the high risk, high reward thing I was talking about earlier. They would have to give entire faith in this web series indie experimental style, and I don't think they're in a position where they would want to take that huge risk where we're at right now, especially with how insecure it seems that they're just being in general. Potats, welcome to the very, very long stream. Why don't they use Marza? Well, Marza's expensive. They might use Marza. It's not impossible to use Marza. It's just the way that the gaming industry has gone is that it's made more sense to use Marza for promotional animation than it does to actually have those animations be in the game itself. That honestly, it pisses me off. I would rather the pre-rendered cinematics be actually in the game, but I think because graphics are at the level where it's kind of seamless, right? The graphics are so high quality that the most cinematic games don't even need to do pre-rendered things half the time, or if they do, it's like really hidden. I think it's now kind of just it's kind of just like a ego contest, like everyone's just bragging, so not using it is just kind of like a pride thing. They're like, oh, we don't have to use it. So I think, like, for example, using it for Frontiers, people would have been like, oh yeah, of course they have to do that because their in-game graphics look like junk. I think that's just kind of the overall perception of doing that nowadays, whereas before it wasn't really. Jay Solar says, set that game on Angel Island 2. Oh, you probably said something earlier. Okay, let's see. Jay Solaris was cooking. I remember seeing that, so I want to read that. Oh man, you don't know how... Crossworlds, yeah, are they gonna do something like that with Crossworlds? Are they gonna do like a... I still wouldn't like it. Jeremiah, so you just see it as not for you from the... Yeah, Jark says that. Well, it's just like not his style from the beginning. It wasn't really my style either, but I did like the way they handled movement in Prime. Calabar says, oh man, you don't know how massive... What is he responding to? Oh, yo, that's crazy. Haven't got that far in Dream Team yet. Sonic Prime also ties into Dream Team. Remember that day in Fourth Chaos? Remember the same Emerald fell and the Void appeared in Shadows DLC? What? No way. I think Prime's worst offense for me, this is Halo, is making Sonic annoying. The whole reason I'm a Sonic fan. The character that made me fall in love with this franchise, annoying. Yeah, it's like he's supposed to be capable of being annoying, but it's that he gets under the skin of people who deserve it. And Sonic can sometimes be annoying to characters like Knuckles, but it's because it's a clash of ideals. It's an exploration of different ideals. But it's what makes the character interesting. When they simple it down or water it down to just Sonic is annoying and that's what's funny, it's just like, dude, it's watered down. The reason it's funny is because there's two completely different ideologies that think different ways of dealing with things are right, but they just, because they disagree, they just mess with each other. Like, yeah, all right, and they always get, because neither philosophy is like 100% true in every situation. So sometimes Knuckles has the upper hand, sometimes Sonic has the upper hand, right? Like, it's not just like linearly Sonic annoying because he is high energy, and that's why he's fast. Generic speedster stuff. I get why people don't like it. I guess you're right, but the promo animations already prove they can get hundreds of millions of views from it. Yeah, but like that's where they get, like the views are gotten. The most attention, like the most eyes see the animation on the trailers, and then if they use the same animations that were in the trailers in the game, the impact is diminished already. They've already seen it. I get why. I get why. But see, now, for me, it's like, I want, like, for example, the scene in that pre-rendered scene for Frontiers trailers where Sonic is in the forest and he like goes to tap Amy's cage and then like notices enemies behind him and he's in the forest and stuff. I remember when I watched that trailer, I really thought that that was going to be a pre-rendered one. And I think it was just because of the way it was set up. Like, it just felt, I just one of those things where I just wanted it to be true so bad. So I think I just thought it was. Because I just instantly was like, oh, that would be so cool if like it was just like an SA1, and maybe I'm getting nostalgic, but like if I ran to, like I saw Amy's cage, I ran to it, fade to black, then black, fade from black into that pre-rendered scene, and Sonic's like walking over to tap it. Like, I think I just want that level of cinematography in a Sonic game so bad, and I know they can't get it in game yet. I'm like, please just do pre-rendered. Just do pre-rendered. It's okay. I don't know. I personally wouldn't have a problem with it, but I do think it's like a industry thing that I can't really speak too much to. The Cobalt Effect says, hot take, Sonic fans should stop generalizing Sonic art styles for humans. People always boil it down to anime, realistic, and Pixar, when there's a lot of nuance behind it. They should look into the name, they should look into and name the specific character designers behind the styles they want. So the Cobalt Effect, do you like the design of Maria and Gerald in Shadow Generations? The cut from Marza animation to Frontiers gameplay would be some whiplash, not gonna lie. There would be whiplash, Jay Solaris, but like, even like open world games like The Witcher or Cyberpunk, like when you're walking through the hub and just talking to NPCs, the animation is a lot more stiff and like not really impressive. Or like characters like walking to each other, like very simplified. And then there are some scenes that are like, all right, lock in, like all the camera angles are like controlled by cinematographers and it's all composed specifically. I don't know, like I feel like the nature of games nowadays that call for them to be so large in scale, it's only natural that there's going to be some parts where the cracks show, and it's like, if some of the NPCs are a little bit quirky, I think that's okay. I think they can just put priority on the scenes that need it. It wouldn't bother me. I think it would be silly to try to make every scene look beautiful. I don't know. Like like the weird animations where Sonic's just standing there in Frontiers and all he does is turn his head and like move his head a little bit. Or have kind of gestures. I would be okay with that. Honestly, all they need to do is make his face expressive. If he had presets and he was just standing there, but depending on what you're saying to him, he's like, or like, you know what I mean? He's reacting to what's being said to him. Then he wouldn't look dead. He looks dead because he's like... He looks like a fish. Like, and that's not acceptable. Well, sorry, it's not that it's not acceptable. It's that it's like, it's worth roasting. Like, it's like, yeah, you could do more. Because I understand that those scenes are supposed to be simple. There's nothing... Like, for example, in Unleashed, you don't even see Sonic stand there. Sonic just disappears. They just focus on the person, and the person just goes, rah, rah, like, and they don't really have that much going on. Like, we get it. We've gotten it for a long time. NPCs don't need to be anything. Like, that's... You know what I'm saying? Like, we know what NPCs are like. We make fun of them in real life. Fish Evan is beautiful. Thanks. Yeah, but we talked about why it kind of feels like it was a necessity for Frontiers to be sad like that. Like, build around your obstacles, you know? Like, leverage your obstacles to make your media feel more intentional. I would start there, right? Like, if you're given a task that seems impossible to create around, it makes sense. See, we've been talking about intent so much, but a smart creative, right, when they're working in a corporate environment, they're gonna know there's gonna be limitations imposed on them. So they can't just go like, what am I passionate about? I'm just gonna explore whatever I want endlessly. Like, no, I understand that there's gonna be limitations and you're gonna be forced in a certain direction. But a smart creative is gonna lay out all of those limitations, all of those requirements, and go, what is a very clear intention that is going to be interesting to my target audience, or the existing audience, and the potential new one that would naturally have these restrictions. And because creativity is limitless, saying that isn't to say you can do whatever you want. It's that there's a solution to all limitations. That sometimes gets distorted to abuse an artist, but it is true. At some point, though, humans have limitations, physical limitations, in which you need to respect. And that's a whole other different discussion. But when we're just talking about art, if you lay out your restrictions and your requirements, then you just have to find something that naturally has those on its own. And that's what they do for Frontiers, right? A dead world, a barren dead world where a war took place is gonna have that limitation of, dang, not a lot of NPCs, not a lot of people to interact with. We need to fill it with something else to make it feel full. At the start, it was just because Sega couldn't do that. But a smart creative bakes it in. So that's kind of why the relationship between artists and like corporate people can be really toxic pretty easily, because I think corporate people understand creativity enough to know, like, you can just create any solution. No matter what I throw at you, there's always a cool idea in there. But at some point, it's like, yes, there's a cool idea in there, but it won't be in there if I'm fucking dead. Like, I don't know what else to say. Like, the mind is very limitless, but the mind is a human. And unfortunately, humanity doesn't always fit into the equation of endless capital growth. And Sonic is a product at the end of the day, so he's gonna be dancing with that always. All right, I can only do this for so long, and I'm pretty sure my animals need to be fed. So, because I have a feeling that whenever I don't help Lords feed them, she forgets to feed them. She's probably just locked in on art. I have to go like remind her. All right. I would never be able to finish this discussion with you guys, honestly. I can even scroll up on things you guys have already said, and I want to speak to it for like 20 minutes. So I think people had a point on my personal channel when they said, man, I wish you would just talk longer about stuff because there's just so much to talk about. But you know, we do this every week, and I'm streaming tomorrow on my personal channel with Lords. We do a more casual kind of podcast comedic, sorry, like goofy, casual style stream. I think we're going to be playing, what is it called? Split Fiction? What is it called? I'm going to look it up just to make sure I'm not lying. Yeah, it's Split Fiction. I think we're going to play Split Fiction tomorrow at 7 p.m. on Mardiculous. So if you like more casual streams, less Sonic focused, then, you know, come hang out with us tomorrow night. And, yeah, I'll see you guys then. And if I don't see you then I'll see you next Saturday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for another hot Sonic Takes hunt with Dakiii, hopefully. Make sure to wish Dakiii a happy birthday. That's where he is right now. He's celebrating his birthday with his family. Let's get a massive happy birthday, Dakiii, in the chat before we close out today. And once again, thank all of you for sticking with me for this very, very long live stream. How many hours? 3 hours. Not bad. All right. Peace, guys. Have a great weekend.